Aquagem Environment, environmental, engineering, and management consultancy. We offer ISO management systems, legal compliance, water and wastewater solutions. Aquagem Environment, leading you to a sustainable future.
I am ready sa Double B.
Mga kapuso, mamaya po pag-uusapan natin maya-maya lamang yung tungkol sa pagbubukas ng Boracay at syempre doon sa ating bisita, hindi lamang po yung pagbubukas ng Boracay ang pag-uusapan kundi ang kanilang expertise. Ito ay may kumpanya sila na nakabase sa Melbourne, Australia at yun yung Aquagem Environment. At ang kanilang isa sa mga pinagtutunan pansin ay yung Clean Water Act ng Pilipinas. So mga kapuso, may bisita tayo at ang pag-uusapan natin itong pagbubukas ng Boracay sa mga turista dahil po doon sa kondisyon nito bago ito isinara 6 months ago. At ang problema ng maruming tubig, ng environmental degradation ay hindi lamang dyan sa Boracay mga kapuso. Maging sa ilang bahagi o maraming bahagi ng ating bansa, ganyan din ang problema mga kapuso. At syempre, tinutugunan yan ng pansin ng ating pamahalaan. Kaya nga naipasa po yung Clean Water Act ng Pilipinas. Pero ang tanong, gaano ba ka-epektibo itong batas na ito sa ating bansa? At syempre may nagpapatupad ng batas na yan at ang DNR. Ngayon, ang kakayahan ba ng DNR ay kaya bang ipatupad talaga itong batas na ito tulad na lamang nung nangyari dyan sa Boracay? At paano na yung ibang mga tourist spots dito sa ating bansa na posibleng ganyan din ang kahinatnan sa mga susunod na taon? Kaya mga kapuso, hindi na tayo dapat magpatumpik-tumpik pa. Ngayong umaga, kasama po natin ang Managing Director ng Aquagem Environment. Ito po ay isang kumpanya nakabase sa Melbourne, Australia. At ang Aquagem Environment, iba't iba po yung concern nito. Kaya mula sa direct from Australia, kadarating lang daw nito kagabi, si Mr. Cecil Corloncito. Magandang umaga, Cecil.
Magandang umaga, Mang Tani, at saka sa lahat ng tagapakinig dito sa DCBB, lalo na dito sa I Am Ready.
Okay, welcome back, Cecil. Pero si Cecil po, ano po ito? Australiano, pero ito po ay taga Bohol, mga kapuso. Pilipinong-Pilipino po itong Australianong kausap natin. Okay, Cecil, hindi na tayo magpapatumpik-tumpik pa. Bubuksan na ang Boracay sa October 26. Ngayon, bilang isang eksperto dito sa, siyempre ang ano natin dito, yung quality ng tubig sa Boracay. Anong masasabi mo? Yung before at itong sa darating na October 26, may pagbabago ba?
Una sa lahat, it's very very clear na yung current Duterte administration ay napaka decisive nito. Nung narinig ng ating presidente na there's an ongoing pollution doon sa Boracay, dinescribe niya ito na ceaseful at saka tigilan na. Pinasara ang Boracay, which 6 months ago, parang unthinkable na ipapasara
tama
ang
yan, Cecil.
Boracay. So that was a very decisive decision ng Pilipinas.
Pero malaki naging epekto
Yeah.
niyan na Cecil, ha? Hindi
Yes.
lang sa Boracay, kundi maging sa ekonomiya yata ng ating bansa.
Yes. So ang issue is yung ceaseful. Ano bang ibig sabihin ng ceaseful?
Sige, ano ba yung
Ang
cesspool?
ibig sabihin ng ceaseful is wastewater pollution. Nagiging siyang septic ang isang
Ayun,
lugar.
parang septic tank ang ano.
Saan ba nanggagaling ito? This is something like sa mga turista at sa mga taong nandun sa Boracay.
Yes,
Kasi ang Boracay, isang maliit na isla, meron siyang tinatawag na carrying capacity.
Okay.
Kung ang natural na tao lang ang nakatira doon, kahit walang gagawin, basta naturally, ang kanilang sariling pollution ay masosolve lang sa nature.
Yes,
But because of the influx of so many tourists at saka international mga tourists, ay dumami ngayon yung mga wastewater at saka mga basura na nagdulot ngayon ng tinatawag na wastewater pollution. Katas ng basura
Yes,
at saka yung mismong wastewater galing sa ating mga dumi.
May
sa mga
idea
tao.
ka ba, Cecil, kasi sinasabi nila 3,000 lang daw yung siguro yung carrying capacity ng Boracay. Pero before that, siguro 1 year ago or yung kasagsagan ng mga tao, siguro gaano kaya kalaki yung dami ng tao versus yung dapat ay kaya lamang ng isla.
Hindi ako expert sa lugar na yan, pero ganito lang yung kasimple. Ang carrying capacity sa isang lugar is that kung ang sarili mong waste ay masosolve sa nature, yun ang carrying capacity niya.
Okay.
Pero kung ang sarili mong waste sa isang lugar ay hindi na masasolve sa nature, ibig sabihin, nilalampasan na niya ang carrying capacity.
Okay.
For example, itong wastewater.
Yes,
Kung ikaw ba ay naligo sa dagat ng Boracay, ikaw lang mag-isa, kailangan ba ng wastewater treatment plant?
Hindi
ikaw
na,
lang mag-isa? Hindi. Pero sa dumami na ngayon, yung mga turista na pumunta doon, so dumami ngayon ang wastewater. Sa bawat isang tao na Pilipino will consume 100 liters per person per day.
Okay.
So, nagiging wastewater yon. Saan pupunta yon?
Yeah,
Hindi naman pupunta sa langit yung
Yes.
wastewater. Pupunta sa pinaka-lowest portion
Nung isla.
ng isla, kung hindi ang dagat.
Okay.
So, pupunta sila lahat. Because the carrying capacity is na-surpass na hindi na kaya sa nature, ay kailangan ng tinatawag na treatment plants.
Okay.
So, kailangan i-treat ang wastewater para manatiling ang kaniyang quality ng tubig sa Boracay, for example, ay mamimaintain.
Pero,
Yun ang
Cecil,
tinatawag na intervention
Yes.
para
Nabanggit mo yung
maiwasan
treatment plant o treatment system ng wastewater sa Boracay. Meron bang existing treatment system ang wastewater dyan sa Boracay?
Marami.
Okay.
Pero merong tinatawag na centralized wastewater treatment ang Boracay Water.
Okay.
Ang problema diyan is hindi lahat ng industry ay nakakonect sa
Doon sa central
wastewater.
system na yan.
So, hindi naman natin sinasabi kung hindi ka nakakonect ay violation ka na. So, kung hindi ka nakakonect,
Anong dapat gawin?
dapat meron kang sariling wastewater treatment plant.
Okay.
So, yung mga sariling treatment plant, ang tanong ko, nakapasabayan o hindi?
Okay. So hindi
So,
basta-basta basta meron kang wastewater treatment plant okay na. So meron pa ring standard.
Yan ang sinasabi. Pag bumili ka ng wastewater treatment plant, ay one thing. Running that is another story.
thing. Okay.
So, pagka pinatakbo mo yan, it's an added cost. So, kung ang isang industry ay naghihirap at nahirapan siyang mag-operate, tapos papatayin niya yun para to save on cost,
Yes,
unfortunately, ang environment ang mag-suffer. So
ganun
it's
ang nangyari sa
important.
Boracay.
Yes, ganun ang nangyayari sa Boracay. So sana yung centralized wastewater treatment plant, yun ang pagtuunan pansin na maging maayos, maging international standard, at kung kinakailangan lahat ng industry ay nakakonect na doon.
Okay. Now, bubuksan ng Boracay. So yung concern mo na yun, was it did the DENR able to address yung concern mo na yun ng wastewater treatment?
Well, bago ko sagutin yan, it's very controversial. I'm
Okay.
currently the consultant of the DENR sa Environmental Management System.
All right.
Mahirap to tread on,
Okay,
waters. So una, I would like to congratulate sa Interagency Task Force on Boracay na may nangyayari doon. For example, talagang napakahigpit nilang unang-una, kinancel ang lahat ng environmental compliance certificate ng lahat ng industry doon sa Boracay.
Oh, so
So ibig sabihin,
Aha.
at that time na pinasara ni President Duterte ang Boracay, ang DNR through the able leadership of Simato is nagkaroon ng desisyon na ipasara lahat, na wala ang ECC. The question now is paano binalik ang mga environmental compliance certificate sa mga industry na compliant.
yes.
Yun ang question.
Yun ang question,
So yun ang
okay.
yun ang basis, yun ang ano. At the same time, I am with full knowledge na ang centralized wastewater treatment plant ng Boracay is nandoon, kaya lang hindi siya upgraded, hindi siya updated. So in short, kung Clean Water Act ang pag-uusapan natin dito, meron pa talagang mga loopholes na naiiwan.
Okay.
At ang pinaka-importante noon, pagsara, wala ng turista. Ang question ko ngayon, pag
Pagbalik.
bumalik ng mga turista, kaya ba ang wastewater ng mga turista na mag-discharge according to Clean Water Act standards?
So yan ang yan ang isang malaking tanong, Cecil,
Yeah.
dahil nga sa pagbubukas ng at itong isang ano natin darating yung Christmas season, holiday. So malamang ay hindi, ewan ko sana naman ay maging mahigpit ang DNR at ang local government para talagang sumunod doon sa Clean Water Act na talagang naging pangunahing problema ng Boracay. Now, maliban sa Boracay, ano pa yung mga potensyal na lugar dito sa Pilipinas, Cecil, ang posibleng maging Boracay in the making?
Marami.
Okay.
Yung amin lang bayan or probinsya sa
Bohol.
Bohol.
Okay.
Nandoon yung Panglao Island.
Aha.
So yung Panglao Island ay because of the offshoot sa pagsara ng Boracay,
Doon nagpuntahan.
nanginginig ngayon yung Panglao, yung mga leaders doon.
Okay.
So pinuntahan din ni Secretary Simato yon at saka ng DNR, o ano na ba kayo?
Okay.
So fortunately, yung Panglao Island hindi pa kasing tulad sa nangyayari sa Boracay.
Pero mukhang papunta na rin doon kung pababayaan niya.
May isang part doon na tinatawag na Aluna Beach area
Okay.
na parang papunta na doon.
Aha.
So, para maagapan yon, yung aming, kasi taga Bohol ako,
Okay.
we were trying to help out the leadership of Panglao para paano yon na hindi mangyayari yung tulad sa Boracay.
Yung wastewater treatment ng Panglao, is it existing?
Walang centralized wastewater treatment plant
Okay.
ng Panglao. May ilan yan ng mga industry or mga resorts na merong mga treatment plants.
At dapat ay umpisahan na yung centralized wastewater treatment.
Personally, para sa akin, ganito sa Australia.
Okay.
Sa Australia, wala na yung tinatawag na individual wastewater treatment
Wala na
plant.
yung kanya-kanya.
Centralized wastewater treatment plant na lang talaga na ang bawat industry doon ay nakakonect na. So ang nagko-control ngayon ng mga nakakonect is yung may-ari or yung operator ng centralized wastewater treatment plant.
At sino yung operator ng gobyerno?
Ang operator doon ay Melbourne Water,
Alright.
City Wastewater. Marami yung tulad ng Manila Water,
Water,
dito, tulad ng Maynilad, yun ang nagko-control doon. Now, ang Maynilad or ang Melbourne Water doon ay kinokontrol ng local na DNR doon.
Okay.
So ibig sabihin, ang DNR ngayon hindi na mahihirapan, isa na lang ang kinokontrol
kausap.
niya. Pero yung mismong Melbourne Water, for example,
Siya ang
kinokontrol niya lahat ng mga industry na nakakonect, and condition yun sa license. Yun ang wala dito sa Pilipinas. Kung meron man yan, hindi na i-enforce ng gusto. Siguro, ang Clean Water Act hindi kasi nagsasabi na kailangan kang magkaroon ng clean water, centralized treatment plant. Sinasabi lang doon, anybody nobody should discharge wastewater na nakapag-create ng pollution sa ating karagatan, sa ating waterways. But ang problem there is ganito. Do you have the resources to monitor all the industry kung sila mismo, bawat isa, ay magkaroon ng wastewater treatment plant?
Okay, yun na.
So yun ang question dyan. Mayroon bang budget ang DNR na
Okay.
pupuntahan kahit na pinakamaliit na restaurant pupuntahan mo?
At sa ngayon, walang ganong kakayahan ng DNR.
I could not say
Oh,
na
yes.
wala.
Okay,
Pero kasi billions din yung budget nila.
Yes,
Pero I would say na it's very difficult to control kung bawat isang industry ay kinukontrol mo.
Okay,
So,
pero sa pagtulungan, siyempre DNR, meron tayong mga local government officials.
oo.
Hindi ba pwedeng yung true local government officials, sila yung magsasabi sa DNR kung ano yung kondisyon, kung ano yung kakayahan, kung ano yung nangyayari doon sa kanilang. Like for example, Panglao is not a big, mas maliit ang Panglao kumpara sa Boracay.
Maliit in terms of number of people going, but
Okay.
ang isla ng Panglao, I think, is mas
The
malaki
same.
kaysa-
Okay.
I'm not sure, but mas kukunti ang tao doon.
Sa ngayon. Pero ganun-ganun din
Pero
ang
nandoon na
Boracay.
rin ang international airport.
Ayun nga,
Sa
yun ang
Panglao.
isa pang dadagdag ko sa iyo dahil ang pagkakaiba ng Panglao sa Boracay merong international airport na itinatayo o
Sa
itatayo.
gitna ng Panglao.
O yun, imagine, ang laking ang laking pagkakaiba nun kaysa sa Boracay. And we're talking of siguro mga 10 years from now, baka iba na yung dami ng tao, baka mas marami pang tao sa Panglao kaysa sa Boracay.
It's a very challenging situation sa leadership ng Bohol or even sa Philippines about what will happen sa Bohol na nandyan na yung international airport na tingin ko this year or early next year magbubukas na.
Okay. At bilang ng Aquagem, ano ang maitutulong nyo kung dyan sa mga ganyang klase ng concern dito sa ating
Ganito
bansa?
lang hindi simple ito eh. Kasi ang Clean Water Act is the law against wastewater pollution sa Pilipinas.
Okay.
But there are other laws na mention mga paano ngayon ang mga local government units. Meron tinatawag local government code. Yung local government code, meron din silang rule how to deal with to protect the environment. Meron ding ibang mga rules, mga laws na related dito. Yung basura, solid waste, Republic Act 9003. Ang
Batas na
katas
yan.
doon ay pupunta sa waterways.
So dugtong-dugtong yan.
Meron tinatawag na Building Code of the Philippines
Okay.
na kailangan ang bawat istruktura sa Pilipinas merong septic tank. Ang septic tank is one form of treatment. Meron din tinatawag na Local Water Utility Administration, yung
Yan,
LUA.
LUA, yeah.
Presidential Decree naman yan, I think 198.
Kung
Creating the water district. Meron din silang role to protect.
Ang water
so,
district.
komplikado ang sitwasyon, but the main law is the Clean
Water
Water, Act.
Act
So huwag mong dumihan ang waterways.
dito sa atin.
Dito sa
Kahit
atin.
saang lugar sa Pilipinas,
Kahit
maging syudad o maging sa probinsya.
Correct.
Okay, ang isang natin ngayon, yung Clean Water Act, kailan ba na ipasa yan, Cecil? Matagal na.
I'm very happy to tell atong listeners nito is I was part of the members of the technical working group
Ng Clean Water
nung
Act?
pinasa yung Clean Water Act
Okay.
panahon ni kanhi Presidente Gloria Macapagal Arroyo
Okay.
noong 2004. So member kami ng technical working group through the Philippine Chamber of Commerce and Industry. So nakapag-contribute tayo doon. At matagal na yun, 2004. Ngayon is
2018 na. 2018, so 14 years ago.
Oo. So I have observed the difficulty na na-experience ng DNR at na-experience din ng industry.
Okay.
Kasi apparently hindi siya gaanong very successful, but because of the closure of Boracay, it creates a lot of awareness at talagang may mangyayari na dito.
Okay. Kanina nabanggit ko, Boracay, Panglao. Kung dito ba sa Metro Manila, nabanggit natin yung balita dito sa Pasig River. Meron ka bang impormasyon na ano yung ginagawang paglilinis naman dito sa Metro Manila? May idea ka ba?
Well, I
Cecil?
was very surprised about that award, but that's the first award of its kind, yung River Asia
Ayan.
Award. But I'm not so surprised kung bakit na bigyan ng award yung Pasig River.
Okay.
Kasi nung way back, ano bang taon na yon, mayroong mandamos ang Supreme Court asking the DNR, kinasuhan yung DNR to clean up Manila Bay.
Kailan yun?
So,
matagal na.
Matagal na, mandamos yun sa
Okay.
Supreme Court. So that's why na-create yung
Ng
Pasig
River
River
Rehabilitation
Council.
Commission.
Yung natayo yon.
Okay.
So, ibig sabihin, dahil sa mandamos na yon at saka sa Clean Water Act, ay naging malinis at saka nagkaroon ng programa yung Pasig River. So hindi ko kabisado yung award na yun. But
Okay.
I'm not surprised kung nabigyan siya because of the meron na silang mga programa. Yung DNR may programa na yung local government.
Okay, kasi itong isang ano ko lang, lalong-lalo bilang isang meteorologist. Isang problema natin dito sa Pilipinas, yung pagdaan ng mga bagyo, no? At tuwing may daraang bagyo, hindi lamang yung kabuhayan lalong-lalo na yung source of water na pinagkukunan. Yung mga Clean Water Act, hindi lamang yung mga pinagkukunan ng tubig ang nasasakop niyan.
Well, ang Clean Water Act ay nakafocus yan sa protection ng mga waterways sa Pilipinas. Pero
Okay.
kung water ang pag-uusapan natin, marami pang batas. May tinatawag tayong Water Code of the Philippines.
Okay.
Pero ito lang masasabi ko na napaka-ironical ang sitwasyon. Napakaraming tubig,
Oo.
walang tubig.
Yun.
So
Oo.
napakaraming tubig sa bagyo o ano ba yan?
Yes, tama ka.
Nagamit mo ba yung tubig na yan
Kapag
para sa
kinakailangan.
potable water use?
Aha.
So yung system na yan ay kailangang water balance ang mangyayari. So ang issue is how are we able to use the water and how are we able to prevent destruction tulad ng mga dilubyo na yan na created by environmentally related and climate change yan dahil yung climate change yun ang dahilan na may mga Yolanda recently
Aha.
may ano ba yun Lawin at saka yung pinaka latest
Si Ompong.
si Ompong.
Yeah,
So ikaw ang expert niyan.
Okay.
Katani.
Okay, so mga kapuso, ito po ang isang ano natin, hinihintay natin yung pagbubukas ng Boracay at base nga dito kay Cecil, napakarami pa ring tanong na dapat tingnan natin. Hindi porke nagbukas po ang Boracay, ibig sabihin yan natugunan na yung naging problema bago isara ang Boracay. At siguro ang ano natin, Cecil, hindi lamang ang national government, hindi lamang ang local government, kundi maging yung mga tao. Kasi natatandaan ko nung nagkaroon ng soft opening, nung matapos yung parang pagkikita ng mga aklano na pagkatapos nun, puro basura uli ang iniwan ng mga bisita. Iilan-ilan lamang yung Cecil, pero ipinakita kagad doon na eto po yung iniwang basura. Iilan-ilan lamang sila nakita-kita ron. Ngayon, bilang isang expert dyan sa Clean Water Act, ano ang parting words mo, Cecil? Hindi lamang para sa mga taga Boracay, hindi lamang para sa mga taga Panglao, kung hindi para sa mga Pilipino.
Para ang Pilipinas ay magiging I am ready sa wastewater na yan o sa compliance ng Clean Water Act. Ganito lang yon. Sa Boracay, napakahigpit na. So, iilan lang ang binigyan ng compliance certificate. Pero may nahuli sila na isang napakalaking hotel na pinake yung compliance certificate. Pinake yung compliance certificate.
Okay.
So, pag tiningnan mo yan, bilang practitioner sa issue na ito, sa wastewater sa buong Pilipinas at even sa Australia, yung nahuli na yan is just a tip of the iceberg. Kung sa environmental na parlance pa, tukhang sa environment yan. So,
okay.
napakahirap ang sitwasyon ngayon. May mga korupsyon na nangyayari. Yung nahuli recently is just a tip of the iceberg and it represents kung ano yung nangyayari sa buong Pilipinas. Yun ang lahat ng Pilipino ay magtulong-tulong dapat na mapugsa ito at hindi maiwasan na yung mga bagay na yan dahil yun mas matindi yan kung ang environment na ang sinira.
Yes.
Lalo na yung ating mga karagatan, waterways. The Philippines is a group of islands, archipelago, marami tayong tubig na dapat nating i-protect. And hindi natin sinasabi na pag bumalik ang mga tao sa Boracay yun ay magkaroon ng pollution, bumalik sila at tumaas ang carrying capacity. Pero ang technology ng wastewater treatment plant ay nandoon, then we can assure of the safe tourism situation at the same time.
Mas malinis
na. Yan ang challenge ngayon
Yes.
sa DNR.
So yun mga kapuso, yun ang isang ano natin may magagawa po, may teknolohiya, may kakayahan ng tao na linisin din yung kanyang dinudumihan. Yun nga lamang po ang pinakamahalaga yung political will dahil nga hindi lamang po ang gobyerno ang mayroong responsibilidad niyan, kundi lahat tayo. At maging katulad ni Cecil na nasa ibang bansa pero tumutulong pa rin mga kapuso, ganyan kamahal niya ang bansang Pilipinas. So Cecil, maraming salamat ha. Ang managing director po ng Aquagem. At ito mga kapuso ha, kadarating lamang po nila kagabi kasama yung kanyang pamilya dito sa Pilipinas. Maraming salamat Cecil ha.
Maraming salamat din Mang Tani at saka kay Ate Glo doon sa Australia at saka lahat ng tagapakinig dito sa DCBB. I am ready.
I am ready sa Double B. Maraming salamat Cecil, Managing Director ng Aquagem.
I am ready sa Double B.
Aquagem Environment, Environmental, Engineering, and Management Consultancy. We offer ISO management systems, legal compliance, water and wastewater solutions. Aquagem Environment, leading you to a sustainable future.
Si Mang Tani para sa I am ready sa Double B. I am ready sa Double B.
Okay mga kapuso, nabanggit natin ha. Yun pong binabalak na clean up dyan sa Manila Bay.
Mga kapuso, si Mike Enriquez po ito. I am ready na ba kayo?
At ito mga kapusong pagbabalak na ito ay hindi lamang po ano yan ha. Mukhang ngayon lamang mangyayari na talagang lilinisin ng gusto ang Manila Bay dahil matagal na panahon na hindi lamang itong panahon ni President Duterte kung hindi ilang presidente na ang nagbabalak. Panahon pa po ni President Ramos na kung saan hindi yung Manila Bay kung hindi yung Pasig River ang pinilit nilang ayusin.
Mga kapuso, sigan po ito. I am ready ka na ba?
Dahil siyempre mga kapuso, yung Pasig River, yung Manila Bay at Laguna de Bay, magkakadugtong po yan mga kapuso. Iisa po kumbaga sa ang buhay ng mga yan at may epekto sila sa bawat isa.
Mga kapuso, si Ali Soto ito. I am ready ka na ba?
At ngayong umaga mga kapuso, makakausap natin isa sa mga Pilipinong may kaugnayan. May kaugnayan tungkol dyan sa mga tinatawag nating environmental degradation. Hindi lamang po yung Manila Bay kung hindi iba't iba pang klase ng problema sa kapaligiran.
Mga kapuso, si Susan Enriquez po ito. I am ready ka na ba?
At itong paglilinis ng Manila Bay, mga kapuso, hindi po ito isang madaling trabaho. Ha? At hindi lamang responsibilidad ng gobyerno to, kung hindi actually responsibilidad po ng bawat Pilipino. Kaya ikaw ay nandyan sa Manila Bay, kung ikaw ay nandyan sa may Laguna de Bay, kahit ikaw ay nasa Visayas at Mindanao, kasama po yan sa responsibilidad dahil hindi lamang po yan ang karagatan na apektado dito, kung hindi halos buong bansa. At mga kapuso napatunayan na natin yan nang ipasara ang Boracay. At ang Boracay mga kapuso, kung titingnan natin, sa tingin ko mas maliit at mas yung problema hindi kasing tindi ng katulad ng nangyayari ngayon at nararanasan diyan sa Manila Bay.
Mga kapuso, si Lala Roque po ito. I am ready ka na ba?
At mga kapuso, ngayon po ay nasa aking harapan ang Managing Director and Founder ng Aquagem Environment, si Engineer Cecil Corloncito. Good morning, Cecil!
Good morning, Mang Tani, at welcome back. Ako ba dito?
Oh, yes,
doon sa last time we met sa Melbourne.
Yes,
So,
opo.
bago ko umpisan, allow me to greet my family in Melbourne. Allow me to greet my family in Bohol, of course.
Okay.
And allow me to greet my family sa trabaho, sa DENR, sa Central Office, sa Regions 2, Region 5, Region 4A ng Mimaropa, at ang task force ng DENR enforcers, mga pamilya din natin ito kasi naniniwala sila sa atin. Then yung mga leaders din sa Bohol para sagipin ang Panglao Island. May bagong airport na doon at kailangan nating masagip na hindi mahilintulad sa Boracay. So, good morning sa inyong lahat na aking pamilya. Ako po'y nandito na naman uli sa magpapa-interview kay Mang Tani. Sana makatulong ako sa bagong issue ngayon. Hindi bago sa akin pero parang bago dahil consistent ito si President Duterte na talagang kamay na bakal about protecting the environment.
Yun ang ano natin, Cecil. Dahil nga nung inisip natin na hindi gagawin na ipasara yung Boracay, considering na ito ay isang pangunahing pinagkukunan ng pinagkakakitaan ng local government sa turismo. Pero ginawa ito. So ngayon, ito naman ngayon, pangalawa, ang paglilinis ng Manila Bay. Gaano ba, Cecil, karumi ang Manila Bay?
Maruming-marumi. So meron nung mga posting kahapon na nabigla daw dahil natuklasan na marumi. Now, from DENR, nandun din si Secretary Simato, nakikita din niya. But hindi na ito bago. DENR and all the Filipinos nalaman nila na marumi itong Manila Bay. Now, kung ikumpara natin ang karumihan ng Manila Bay at Boracay, kung pinasara ni President Duterte ang Boracay, wala siyang rason na hindi ipasara itong Manila Bay. Dahil kung ang E. coli sa Boracay is runs into thousands or hundreds of thousands, most probable number, kahapon sa inyo sinasabi, billions most probable number.
Yun nga, doon ako na...
Ang E. coli or coliform na nandyan sa Manila Bay.
So when you say billions of yung most probable number, ibig sabihin na talagang highly toxic na ba? Anong ibig sabihin nun?
Hindi mo masabing toxic ang tinatawag na most probable number ng coliform kasi siya ay natural na pollution. Ang ibig sabihin ng natural, kaya din niyang the nature can heal kasi pag may ultraviolet rays sa sun, radiation, pwede ding
mamatay yung mga ano
siya. Hindi siya tinatawag na toxic, na tinatawag nating persistent organic pollutants. Yun talagang hindi nawawala.
Okay. Pero mayroong ganun doon sa Manila Bay.
Pero nakakamatay din ito dahil virus ito at kung matamaan ka nito, ay siguradong kung limpak-limpak na sakit ang abutin mo kung naliligo ka sa mga estero na ito,
so,
sa dagat na ito.
Yun ang dahilan, Cecil, kung bakit yung dami na yon walang nabubuhay na ibang lamang dagat dyan sa Manila Bay at sa mga ibang tributaries nito?
Well, mayroon pa rin nabubuhay dyan, yung tinatawag na na-immune na, kasi yung bakterya na yan ay buhay.
Okay.
So, ibig sabihin, sila ngayon ang nangungunang nabubuhay dyan sa Manila Bay. So yung mga normal na mga isda at saka yung iba pang mga lamang dagat ay hindi na nila kaya dahil aagawin nito yung oxygen diyan sa lugar na yan. Dahil kumakain din ito ng oxygen yung mga bakterya na yan na nandyan sa dagat. So nagiging siyang dead in terms of pollution diyan sa Manila Bay.
Okay, sa paglilinis ngayon ng Manila Bay, Cecil, ano ang magiging epekto nito? Ano ang unang dapat gawin ng pamahalaan?
So mahirap ito explain kaagad pero si President Duterte was very consistent kasi yung unang suna niya sinasabi na kailangan pugsain yung mga destructive practices na nakakasira sa natural resources.
At ano yung mga destructive practices na yan?
Yung destructive practices, for example, maliban sa illegal logging, illegal mining, is yung pagpupulyot sa mga karagatan, natural resources natin ito. Itong Pilipinas ay pinupuntahan dahil may mga malilinis at pristine na mga tubig. Pero kung yung source ng ating income from tourism at saka transportation ay sirain mo, then that's the very source na patayin mo, mamamatay rin ang ating industry. So, consistent siya. So, pinasaran niya ang Boracay.
Okay.
This time, the other day yata, sinasabi, linisin ninyo ang Manila Bay. Now, nakakatakot to. This is not something new sa DENR. The problem here is ang Clean Water Act na batas na para linisin ang ating waterways.
At yun ang basihan.
Yan ang basihan.
Okay.
At may problema tayo sa batas na yan. Kasi sinasabi, anybody who pollutes must be responsible. So, ang DENR, ang response niya is lahat hahabulin.
When you say lahat ng nasa paligid ng Manila Bay?
Isang tao or isang kahit sino na nagtapon ng isang drop of pollutive substances or wastewater is liable. Yun ang isang problema sa batas na yan. Dahil walang sinasabi na ang habulin lang ng DENR kung sino lang nagtatapon ng ganito kalaki. Lahat ay dapat habulin. So ang tanong ko ngayon, meron bang enough resources ang DENR hahabulin mula yung pinaka-estero na yan or pinakamaliit na sari-sari store hanggang sa pinakamalaking industrial plant? Meron ba siyang ganong capability? So it's close to impossible na you can run after the scalawags or yung mga pollutive na dischargers dito sa Manila Bay.
Okay, unang ano ko. So gaano kalaki kung halimbawa susundin ng DENR yung batas na yan na bawat isa kailangan nilang i-monitor, tingnan Ano ba pinag-uusapan natin pag sinabing clean up ng Manila Bay? Yun lamang bang Manila Bay mismo itself or hindi lang ganun ka-limitado?
Well, kung i-describe natin ang Manila Bay, hindi lang ito nasa Manila Bay.
Okay.
Nasa sakupan nito yung Manila, of course, yung Manila
Siyudad
Peninsula.
ng Maynila?
At saka yung Bulacan, at saka paikot pa doon hanggang Bataan.
Bataan. At
So,
dito sa South, kasama rin ba ang
oh.
Cavite at Batangas?
I'm not so sure about that. Pero lahat yan ay mayroong connection.
Alright.
So, for example, ang Manila Bay, pagka high tide, ay pumapasok sa Laguna Lake.
Okay.
So, pagka low tide, bumabalik
Balik
siya
ka
sa
doon.
Manila Bay.
So yung
So,
Laguna Lake
Hindi mo
naman...
masasabi na Manila lang yan.
Okay.
Kasi ano ang nasasakupan ngayon ng Laguna Lake? Napakalaki.
Aha.
Buong Laguna na yan, nagpati Quezon pa yata, kasama na lahat.
Rizal, yan,
I
Laguna.
think the biggest lake in the Philippines yan.
Okay.
So, kung sino yung nagtatapon doon sa Laguna Lake, pagka low tide, ay nagtatapon na rin siya sa Manila,
Manila Bay.
So, when I describe that, it's a task na talagang napakalaki.
Okay.
Pero pag tinanong mo kung kaya bang linisin ito, I would say, and positively, kaya. Paano?
So yun sanang itatanong
Oo.
sa'yo. So, hindi ito isang impossible dream.
Hindi ito imposible.
Okay.
Meron tayong mga experience, for example, nung panahon ng industrialization doon sa First World,
Okay.
yung mga industry nung araw, sinasadya nila na meron silang mga usok
Saang
sa mga...
bansa ito?
Sa Amerika.
Sa isa, okay.
Oh. So, sinasadya nila na sikat sila pag merong usok.
Okay.
Sikat din sila kung merong discharges sa water.
Oh.
Hanggang umabot ang punto, for example, yung Lake Erie between Canada and United States, ay pagka sinindihan mo yun ng, pag nagtapon ka ng sigarilyo niya nung araw, ay umaapoy na yan.
So, ganun karumi.
Ay hindi pa naman umaapoy ang Manila Bay.
So
ibig sabihin,
So, may pag-asa
merong
pa.
pag-asa.
Ah, okay.
Papaano? Pag-uusapan natin yan. Kung
Okay.
papaano. Kung
So,
paano
pwede
ang strategy.
So, kaya palang linisin. Kayang ibalik kaysa doon mula doon sa sinasabi nilang pwede kang maligo sa Manila Bay, pwede kang manghuli ng isda sa Pasig River. That's doable.
Yes. So, papaano?
Okay. So,
Now,
yun ngayon ang tatanong ko sa iyo ngayon, Cecil, bilang expert
tama
dyan.
ba yung hahabulin mo? Bawat isang establishmento sa Manila Bay,
Ang sabi mo, walang kakayahan sa ngayon
wala.
ang DNR.
At saka very expensive yan. Lahat ng tao or lahat ng DNR ng resources, kahit ipunin pa yung 20,000 na mga tao sa DNR, hahabulin yung sangkatutak na napakaraming tao, millions na tao
Milyon yung
dito,
pinag-uusapan
dito sa
natin na
Metro Manila.
individual.
Hindi rin nila makaya. But let's go back to the law.
Okay?
So yung batas na yan ay nagsasabi na bawat isa. Pero hahabulin mo ba bawat isa? So let's do a risk assessment.
Okay.
So sa problema, kung may problema tayo sa bahay, hindi lahat ng pinabili ng ating misis or sa ating mga anak ay bibilihin natin kaagad.
Okay,
Kasi
so isa-isa.
mamumulubi ka.
Una, first
so
thing
based
first.
sa ating risk assessment sa DNR, kasi consultant ho ako
Okay.
ng DNR ngayon, ang number one nga problema sa Metro Manila ay hindi wastewater,
Ay, ano?
kung hindi garbage.
Okay.
Okay. Bakit ko sinali yan sa usapan nito? Because the garbage also is the source of pollution sa wastewater pollution sa Metro Manila. Kasi katas pa lang ng garbage ay pumupunta na ng Metro Manila.
Okay.
So, there you are. Kung sino man yung merong garbage facility or mga kabundok na mga garbage na walang wastewater treatment plan na lalong dumadaloy doon ang kanilang katas sa kanilang basura, dapat nakapokus na doon ng DNR.
Okay.
At isa yon.
Okay.
Okay, so kuha na ngayon, garbage na. So hindi talaga dapat lahat. So yung garbage. So saan ba nanggagaling ang
Yun.
garbage?
Anong source
ang
ng basura
nanggagaling
lang?
sa garbage sa Metro Manila, sinong ang may control? MMDA.
MMDA.
So, meron bang facility sa garbage dito sa Metro Manila na sang-ayon naman sa Republic Act 9003?
Ano yung
Unfortunately, merong mga dyan, pero unfortunately, hindi pa rin nasusunod. Meron pa rin mga illegal dumping sites na nandyan sa harapan ng Manila Bay. So, nakikita na alam ng DNR yan.
Okay.
So, pag pinasara mo yan,
yung
ngayon,
dumping site na yun.
Saan naman pupunta ang
Saan
basura?
itatapon yung basura?
So, problema yan sa mga local government unit, problema yan sa MMDA. But, hindi yan talaga imposible. Kung ayaw mo nang patapunan yan para mawala ng katas doon sa Manila, saan mo dalhin? Mayroong malalaking landfill nandoon sa malayo nga lang, sa Tarlac. ay papayag ba sila. So it's a matter of decision dahil hindi ito imposible, pwedeng gawin.
Pwedeng gawin.
Okay, yan ang isang risk. Pangalawang malinaw na nasa batas is let's talk about Metro Manila. Yung privatization ng MWSS.
Yung Manila
sino
Water
ngayon?
Manila Water
Manila
Sewerage System.
MWSS was privatized.
When?
Hindi ko na alam kung
Okay,
kailan yun.
maybe
Matagal na.
20 years
That's
ago.
the biggest water privatization sa buong mundo. Itong
Yung ginawa,
MWSS.
okay.
Nagigis siyang Maynilad ngayon
Okay, at saka Manila Water.
Manila Water. So dalawa yon, South sector at saka North sector yata.
Okay.
Now malinaw na hindi lang tubig ang kanilang responsibility.
Kung hindi,
Pati ang wastewater. Bakit kaya? Because nagsusupply sila ng tubig. Walang mangyaring wastewater kung walang tubig.
so basta nag-supply ka ng
every
tubig.
time this supplier supplies 1 drop of water, it is equivalent to 1 drop of wastewater. Dahil hindi naman mawawala yan.
Okay.
So nandyan yan. So responsibility nila by law to treat the wastewater para yung wastewater na yun ay hindi mapunta sa Manila Bay. So there you are. Nakikita mo na ngayon na pwede din silang ang pansin ng DNR ay sila, hindi ang lahat.
So, una, yung garbage collection at pangalawa, itong wastewater treatment ng nagsusupply ng tubig sa buong Metro Manila.
So, meron bang kakayahan ang DNR? I'm very sure meron. Dahil noon, sinasabi niyo millions ang habulin mo na wala kang kakayahan. Sinabi ko lang na 2 risk ang garbage at saka itong Metro,
baka
itong Manila Bay.
nung
You have
nasagot
enough,
na.
the DNR has enough resources to run after Manila Water and Maynilad.
Okay.
Hindi ko sinasabing ito run after is ikukulong sila. Kung hindi, the law also states na kailangan nilang i-treat ang mga wastewater.
At sa ngayon, walang treatment plant o treatment facility ang 2 concessionaires tungkol dito sa wastewater na ito?
Mali yan, hindi totoo yan.
So meron sila?
Meron. Kasi sila ngayon ay inatasan na to put up wastewater treatment plant. However, ang decision mga almost more than 10 years ago ay hindi pwede yung tinatawag na full centralized wastewater treatment plant. Ang ibig sabihin ng full centralized, iisang loop lang ng buong Metro Manila magpapipe para doon ang lahat ng waste. Ang ginawa ngayon tinatawag na clustering of centralized wastewater treatment plant.
Ano
so,
yun?
ang Maynilad at saka Manila Water ay meron na. Kaya lang, may kaya lang. Ay
hindi sapat.
Nagampanan ba nila lahat-lahat na para ma-save itong example lang. Kung meron lang silang wastewater treatment facility dito sa malapit sa Manila Zoo, sana yung Manila Zoo na mga waste sa mga hayupan na yun ay nakakonect na sa kanila. That's a proof na hindi niya nagawa ang kanilang mga responsibility.
At yun ay malinaw na nakita natin sa telebisyon nung isang araw na kung saan in-interview yung isa sa mga opisyal ng Manila Zoo na talagang sinabi nilang wala silang wastewater treatment.
Maganda itong emphasis din na take up natin Manila Zoo. Kasi
dahil
gobyerno yan. Under Manila City yata yan. Okay. I would like to send a message across na ang pollution ay hindi lang ito, walang diferensya sa pollution kung gobyerno ka man o private. Napaka-unfair naman na private lang ang ating hinahabol natin. Pero sa harapan natin, ang napakalaking may mga infrastructure din ay ang mga gobyerno. So hindi kayo exempted na sa gobyerno, even DNR. Kasi consultant ako sa DNR ngayon.
So maging ang DNR.
Sinasabi ko, kayo ba ay nakasunod sa simple na Clean Water Act? Kasi consultant ako sa management system. Ay sunisunod nila. Kayo ba ay nakakonect ngayon sa Maynilad? So nasusolve nila ngayon on their own little way. Kasi kung sila mismo ay naintindihan yung kanilang infrastructure na hindi nakasunod, how can you enforce yung inyong mandate kung ikaw mismo hindi ka nakasunod? So, importanteng message dito is lahat.
Ika nga, walk the talk.
Gobyerno or private, dapat parihan. Napaka-unfair na kung mayroong isang gobyerno na hotel, walang wastewater treatment plant. Kaya pala mura yan dahil ang private ay mayroong wastewater treatment plant. So ang mga tao doon pupunta kasi mas mura. Kasi mas mura dahil polluted siya. So kailangang fair ang laro nito. Yun ang pangatlong message ko. Risk assessment, basura, Manila Water at saka Maynilad ayusin at kailangan everybody should contribute.
Walang pipiliin ng DNR o pamahalaan.
Doable ba yan? I would say doable.
Okay.
Mas doable itong mga bagay na ito kaysa hahabulin mo bawat isa
Aha.
sa mga industry na yan. Yun ay imposible at saka masama pa yan. Dahil ang napakaraming hahabulin ang DNR, kung habulin nila lahat ay na-expose ang ating mga kawani sa DNR ng tinatawag nating korupsyon. Na-expose, hindi ko sinasabing corrupt sila, pero na-expose sila dahil every time na pumunta sila, uy,
Para,
pwede bang ayusin natin ito? Alam mo na,
Wala
ganito,
kayong
ganito.
permit, wala kayong ganito, kulang yung ano nyo,
So in
pasilidad nyo.
fairness sa mga taong honest sa gobyerno, sa DNR, hindi kayo ang tinutukoy ko. Pero yung mga tao,
At nangyayari yan.
nangyayari, meron akong mga ebidensya. May mga tao talaga na hindi honest. May mga tao talaga na I would say, nainganyo. Kasi siyempre, pag humabol siya, pwede bang aregluhin na lang natin yan? Okay, number 1. Number 2, kung sakaling effective yung DNR, nahabulin
Bilang.
bawat isa.
Okay.
Okay. Ideally, magkaroon sila ng wastewater treatment plant dahil mahigpit sila.
Aha.
Yun, bibili ang isang hotel, bibili ang isang hospital.
Kanya-kanya ba yung mangyayari?
Kanya-kanya. Yun bang hotel or hospital or yung whatever industry,
establishmento,
for example, ay expert ba yan sila ng pagpapatakbo ng wastewater treatment plant? Di ba ang expertise ng hotel is yung rooms, yung pagkain, at
customer
saka,
service,
hindi yung
pagpapatakbo ng isang wastewater treatment plant.
Sino ang expert? Ang Maynilad at saka Manila Water kasi wala na silang ibang ginagawa, tubig lang. So, yun ang issue. Pangalawa, kahit magiging expert na sila, dahil sa kompetisyon ng business, papatakbuhin ba nila yan? Para pakita lang yan na mayroon akong wastewater treatment. Nandyan ba ang DNR 24/7 sa iyo?
To monitor.
Although may batas na sinasabi na kailangan may pollution control officer. Sinong sumweldo ng pollution control officer? Hindi naman DNR, kung hindi yung kanyang employer. So, pag sinabi na bakit ang laki ng kuryente natin, patayin mo muna yan. Patayin mo muna yan. So, hindi talaga effective yung issue na magkaroon siya ng wastewater treatment plant lahat ng industry. So, I would suggest to the DNR, tigilan na ninyo yung paghahabol ng lahat ng industry. Kahit
Every
yung malalaking industry, kung gusto niyo habulin ang malalaking industry, pareho ang dapat dating niyan. Pareho na dapat gwardiyahan niya na gumagana habang wala pa yung centralized wastewater treatment facility.
Okay, so nakikita nyo mga kapuso, hindi po isang simpleng problema itong pinag-uusapan natin at hindi isang simpleng solusyon ang pinag-uusapan natin dito. And it will take hindi po months or years. Pero definitely ang isang ano natin mga kapuso, pwede pong mangyari itong binabalak ng pamahalaan. It's doable at darating ang panahon na babalik natin sa dati ang kalagayan ng Manila Bay at ng Pasig River kasama na ang Laguna de Bay. Magbabalik po ang I Am Ready sa Double B.
Si Mang Tani para sa I Am Ready sa Double B. I Am Ready sa Double B. Double B Super Radio.
For the young and old, pwedeng hot and cold,
Coke 237
Dermatologist yan mga kapuso. Kay Manager Aksa Junior Ramirez. And of course, happy 24th anniversary kay paring Rene at
Aquagem Environment, Environmental, Engineering, and Management Consultancy. We offer ISO management systems, legal compliance, water and wastewater solutions. Aquagem Environment, leading you to a sustainable future.
Good morning, everyone. So we have about 3 minutes to officially start. So if you would like to attend to some of necessities before you can be on your seat for the next 2 hours, so you have about 3 minutes to do that. All right, so good morning once again, everyone, and welcome to our National Sewerage Septage Management Plan webinar. It's 9:30 in the morning Philippine time, 12:30 p.m. in Melbourne, Australia, and 4:30 p.m. at Monterey, California. So once again, I welcome everyone, and we officially commence our webinar. My name is Rose Balot, and I am one of the directors of Aquagem Environment, and I am based in Melbourne. So we have a wide attendance demographics. Imagine involving 3 continents, Asia, Australia, and North America. That's really a wow thing this morning. So before we proceed to our presentations, may I invite everyone to please have a moment of silence and join me in spirit in thanking God for gathering all of us today. 113 participants all up, and I'm sure there would be more that would be joining us, in a little while. So we really thank God for this opportunity today that we can gather together and make a difference to our country, the Philippines, and its people. Thank you all. We also would like to thank God for the gift of technology that made us possible for us to meet when we can't gather face to face. So we ask the Lord to bless us, to bless the next 2 hours, and may God's wisdom and guidance be with us. And may God bless us all. Everybody please say amen. Can I see a thumbs up? 112 people. Can I see your thumbs up if you are ready for today? For the next 2 hours, I got my 2 thumbs up. I am really excited to see all these 112 people. Now, I assume that you are all familiar with the use of Zoom. That's why we are all here. But nevertheless, just some friendly reminders, because Zoom is now the new normal way of conducting meetings. So for those who still would want some support, feel free to use the chat, the Zoom chat icon, which is on the bottom, and you can chat myself or Ismael if you need some support or some questions about how, to navigate the Zoom. And some friendly reminders. You will notice that you had been muted when you enter the Zoom room, and you will stay muted throughout the presentations. However, if there are questions or clarifications that will pop into your mind during the presentations, feel free also to use the chat, the Zoom chat, and address it to me or Ismael so that we can save time later on for the Q&A portion. So I repeat, just use the chat. If any questions or clarifications will pop into your mind at any point in time during the presentations. But I assure you that we will have, you will be given time for Q&A. And I also encourage everyone to turn on the video, but of course we understand that there are some internet issues. That's why other participants remain with their video off, which is totally fine. We can understand that it could be the internet signal issue, but of course it's good to see your good looking and pleasing faces on screen. But so we have 114 so far. All right, so we'll start the program moving as scheduled. We have in our program, we have our opening remarks and the welcome message. So we are supposedly have the welcome message by Mayor Sara Duterte, but we know that in such a busy situation that our country, and there are so many pressing things that need her attention. So she sent us her welcome remarks to be delivered by the ever dedicated Davao City engineer. So engineer attorney Joseph Dominic Felizarta with 115 people on screen. So is our engineer attorney Joseph Dominic Felizarta on Zoom with us?
Yes, ma'am. I am here already, ma'am. Can you hear me, ma'am?
Yes. Okay. Welcome, Mr. Joseph Dominic Felizarta. It is our great pleasure to have you and listen. You deliver the welcome message from our Mayor, Sara Duterte. Take it away, sir.
Okay. Thank you, Ma'am Rose. To Engineer Sophie Manuel, Regional Director, EMB Region 11. To Engineer Cecil Corloncito, the Managing Director of Aquagem Environment. To Engineer Naria Ilagan, Wastewater Board BD Manager of Aquagem Environment. To the participants of this webinar, friends, ladies and gentlemen, good morning everyone. Please allow me to read the message of our Mayor. First of all, allow me to greet everyone a pleasant morning. On behalf of the City Government of Davao, allow me to express my gratitude to Aquagem Environment for spearheading this event. In coordination with the Department of Environment and Natural Resources, Environmental Management Bureau 11, or DNR EMB Region 11, for the benefit of local government units in the Davao region. The Public Act number 9275, otherwise known as the Philippine Clean Water Act of 2004, aims to protect the country's bodies of water from pollution. As a way of alleviating the problem on wastewater pollution, the Department of Public Works and Highways has initiated the National Sewerage and Septage Management Program, or NSSMP, to address the issues on sanitation, treatment, and disposal of wastewater. This plan aims to improve water quality and protect public health in urban areas in the Philippines. This webinar, therefore, is highly appreciated as it will help us in the feasibility studies and other technical components involved in creating sound, practicable, and well-thought out sewerage and septage plans for our respective localities. With this webinar, I hope that everyone involved will be able to acquaint themselves on the process of compliance for sewerage, septage, and wastewater treatment plants as a way of improving the sanitary condition of the bodies of water in our region. For it is our responsibility as government officials to provide concrete and feasible plans and programs to address the prevalent issues regarding wastewater pollution. Again, I extend my gratitude to Aquagem Environment and DENR EMB for initiating this webinar. Let us continue in our mission to ensure that our planet remains habitable for many more years to come for the benefit of the next generations. Daghang salamat sa akin, Sara Z. Duterte, City Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Engineer Attorney Joseph Dominic Felizarta. It's truly an honor to have you, and going through the message of Mayor Sara, I can clearly see that she's committed to her vow. I made a little research about her, and her vow is really to be be useful and serve the country at all times. And as you can see, it reflected in her welcome address, detailing what she wanted to do to make your environment habitable and really, preserve the goodness of the environment. So thank you. Let's give Attorney Joseph Dominic Felizarta virtual claps, please. Thank you once again, sir. Now, to pump us even more, we shall have another dedicated government official. She was the Chief EQD of DENR, EMPAS, CENR Officer of Kidapawan City for 15 years, Regional Director of DENR EMB Negros Island Region from 2016 to 2017, and Regional Director of DENR EMB Region 6. It was under her directorship that Boracay closure took place. She is currently the Regional Director of EMB Region 11, Davao City, and the Career Executive Service Officer. From this information and highly critical positions she had and continue to hold, we can tell that our next speaker is a woman of principle and integrity who can surely inspire us this morning. Please, let's give a warm virtual round of applause to no other than Regional Director, Engineer Sophie Manuel.
Thank you very much. To our MC, thank you for the kind introduction. I would like to welcome all the participants to this webinar on the National Septage and Sewerage Management Plan for Davao City and LGUs in Region 11. But looking at the list of participants, I could see that it now comes from almost all parts of the country. Well, thank you for that. No, thank you for your interest, and we are really appreciative for that. As a start, let me ask you, according to the Bible, what is the first material object that existed on earth? So, anyone who wants to answer? Well, it is water. So, the passage of the Clean Water Act in 2004, or the Philippine Clean Water Act, or the Republic Act 9275, is an act providing for a comprehensive water quality management and for other purposes. Specifically stated in Section 2 of the Clean Water Act is the declaration of policy, where the state shall pursue a policy of economic growth in a manner consistent with the protection, preservation, and revival of the quality of our fresh, brackish, and marine waters. To add to this, there are several general provisions of the Act. First is to protect the country's water bodies from pollution from land-based sources, and it provides for a comprehensive and integrated strategy to present and or minimize pollution through a sectoral and participatory approach. Well, as to the coverage of the Act, it applies to all the water quality management in all of our water bodies. Primarily, it applies to the abatement and control of pollution from land-based sources and the water quality standards and regulations and civil liability and penal provisions of the Clean Water Act shall be enforced irrespective of sources of pollution. We are now focused on Section 7 of the Clean Water Act, and this covers the National Sewerage and Septage Management Program, where it states that the DPWH, through its relevant attached agency, in coordination with us, the DNR, all the local government units, and all other concerned agencies, shall prepare a national program on the sewerage and septage management. It is on this context that I would like to take this opportune time to thank Aquagem for this webinar, the City of Davao, and all other LGUs present today. Please feel free to ask questions and listen carefully. You will learn a lot through this webinar today, and I will be here to listen and perhaps discuss with you later if there will be questions that will be arising during the lecture. So before I end, well, I answered a while ago that the first material object that existed on the earth is water, because according to Genesis chapter 1, verses 1 to 2, in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. And the earth was without form and void, and darkness was upon the face of the depth. And the Spirit of God was moving over the face of the water. So water talagang pinakauna. Kaya it is very essential because we cannot live without water. So we need to protect our waters because it is a very vital element that we need in our daily living. And before I end, I would like to ask, which civilization invented the first public sewerage system? So the answer is the Indus Valley civilization in Asia. It shows early evidence of public water supply and sanitation, and a typical example in the Indus city of Lothal, where all houses had their own private toilet, which was connected to a covered sewer network constructed of brickwork held together with a gypsum-based mortar that emptied either into the surrounding water bodies, all alternatively into cesspit. So as early as that, meron ng isang area na merong may evidence na merong public water supply and sanitation. So it is just, I believe, a political will, for us to be able to install, and take note that it is an obligation for all of us, not only for the DNR, for the local government units, but everyone. We need to protect our bodies of water. And Section 7 of the Clean Air Act should be followed. So with that, thank you very much and a pleasant morning to each and everyone.
Thank you so much, Engineer Sophie. Now I understand even more, with a biblical basis, why we should promote sustaining a progressive economic development while maintaining a healthy environment, especially our water resources. We all know that we can survive without food for about 3 weeks, but we can only survive without water for 3 days. And that's how important water is. So now we move to the highlights, one of the highlights of this webinar, our first presentation, which is about National Sewerage Septage Management Plan. And this will be presented by no less than the Managing Director of Aquagem Environment Australia, whose experience in environmental management is not easy to match, having worked as the consultant of different environmental agencies, both in Australia and Philippines. Before I give him to you, may I remind everyone once again that if there is any questions or clarifications that would pop into your mind at any time, please feel free to use the Zoom chat and address it to me. Okay, so thank you. So once again, I give you our Managing Director, Engineer Cecil Corloncito. Another virtual applause, please.
Maraming salamat, Sister Rosana Rose Balod, for the information of everyone. Siya yung expert ng magmamanage ng mga ganito, kahit hindi webinar, kahit doon sa actual. So I'm really very surprised how Ms. Balod was able to do this also in virtual conferencing. Anyway, without much ado, maraming salamat sa lahat. First of all, I would like to thank you for joining. Without you, this webinar, without you, more than 115 people would not be successful. I would like to thank and recognize the men and women who prepared for this webinar. We call them the Aquagem Business Development Group. Thank you very much. You're well appreciated. And thank you very much, my good friend, Regional Director of Region 11, Engineer Sophie Manuel. That was a very fine message to us that encourage us to work harder. Thank you at maraming salamat na pinaunlakan mo despite your busy schedule. And thank you to reconnect again when the last time I saw you was in Region 6 when we were doing some things in Region 6, the Boracay and all those Iloilo things. And daghang salamat talaga. I would like also to appreciate most of all yung ever energetic at environment-friendly Mayor of Davao City for giving us a very inspiring message, welcome message to us. Salamat kay Engineer Attorney Felisarta sa pag-deliver ng message at sa pagtatyaga na uma-attend dito at it shows that the City of Davao will be very interested about this topic. So, maraming salamat. Thank you LGUs, particularly kayo ang mga beneficiary dito sa ating ang outcome ng webinar na to. And I would like to specifically recognize and pay tribute to my alumni school, the Cebu Institute of Technology Chemical Engineering Class of 84. We offer a moment of silence for the loss of one of our classmates, Eden Esigera, who was with the water industry since 1984. So we pay tribute for this webinar and to our colleagues, to our mentors who are present here. We really, we're sorry for the loss. And of course, to Pump Prime, we have to thank those who are part of this webinar program. Now, let me share to you my presentation, and it will take me, pardon me, it will take me for like the next 30 minutes. And I know that you were observing prior to this webinar the interview with Mang Tani Cruz of GMA7. Maraming salamat, and I would like to share to you that why is it that I was able to connect Mang Tani, because Rosana Balod is the sister of Mang Tani Cruz, the meteorologist of GMA7 and DCWB. That's why medyo mas malakas tayo doon na interview tayo, hindi madaling ma-interview sa mga radio nila. Okay, so without much ado, let me share my presentation today. Let me try to maneuver how I'm going to present this, how I'm going to share this one. All right, so I hope that I'm able to present this properly. So can you confirm that you can see my presentation? Is that a thumbs up that you can see my presentation? Can you hear me clearly now? Is that okay? Okay, let me proceed. I'm the one maneuvering this presentation, so let me proceed and bear with me. And some of the topics here have been discussed earlier, but I wanted to emphasize that there are current situations that are very applicable to the local government units. So welcome to this National Sewerage Septage Management Plan. We called it a plan because under the law, it's called a program. We just don't want to copy the law, but this is a National Sewerage Septage Management Program under the law, but we just call it the NSMP for Davao City and the local government units, particularly prepared for Region 11. But this is really very applicable to all the LGUs throughout the Philippines. Before I forget, I would also like to recognize those who are attending from my home province in Bohol. Almost nakaligtaan ko sila, especially yung Panglao Island na yun ay mayroon tayong trabaho. I would like to recognize them for having with me here, mga tawag namin, mga paisano. Okay, so let me start. So this is the program. This is a webinar on Sewerage Septage Management Plan, the LGU's compliance to Philippines Clean Water Act, and the opportunities for implementing international best practice on wastewater management. So we, Aquagem Environment, would present this program under the Republic Act 9275, the Clean Water Act. It was very clear that during the 12th Congress, it was passed on that date, an act providing a comprehensive water quality management for all and for other purposes. It was enacted by both Senate and the House of Representatives. This is the Section 7 that RD Sophie was saying. I was copying this actually from the law, and I am highlighting that local government units is really specifically mentioned. The Department of Public Works and Highways through its relevant agencies with the DNR and the local government units and other concerned agencies as soon as possible, but in no case exceeding 12 months from the effectivity of the Act, must have a national program on sewerage and septage. Such programs shall have a priority listing. I think nandiyan na ang mga trabaho dyan. LGUs based on population density. HLGU shall appropriate necessary land. Responsibility ng mga LGU ang mag-appropriate ng necessary land and right of ways. And also LGU must raise funds to subsidize the expenses and operation of a wastewater treatment facility. That's what is in the law. According to Section 8, the domestic sewage collection and treatment and disposal, nandiyan na rin. The LGUs shall be required to connect to existing sewage lines. So if the areas are not highly urbanized cities, the DPWH in coordination with the DNR, the DOH and other concerned agencies shall employ the septage or combined sewerage and septage management system. So that is in the law. And allow me first, so that's the basis why we are here. And that is exactly what the law states. So again, welcome to Aquagem Environment. Aquagem Environment is an environmental engineering and management consulting firm. We are based in Melbourne, and we have a trademark that is applicable in Australia and all over the world. We have 3 core services. We offer ISO training and auditing. Currently, the EMB Central Office has just garnered their ISO 9000 2015 certification under our tutelage. So welcome and congratulations to them. I think nandiyan si Ma'am Tina ISO na na sumasama diyan sa ating webinar. That's a very good achievement by the EMB Central Office. Legal compliance, we help industries comply with the Clean Water Act and other applicable laws. In fact, we conduct feasibility studies on sewerage, septage, and centralized wastewater treatment plant. I'll show to you later. We design and build water and wastewater treatment facility at marami na kaming na-install. Without much ado, I will show you what we have done as a consultant. Aquagem Environment is the consultant of quality management system for DNR EMB in Central Office in regions 2, 3, 6, and 10. We are also the consultant of environmental management system for DNR Central Office, EMB Central Office, and EMB Region 2 sa ISO 14000 naman yan. We have conducted a feasibility study for the sewerage, septage, and wastewater treatment for the protection of Lake Buhi in EMB Region 5. We have conducted a feasibility study for sewerage, septage, and wastewater for the protection of Calapan River at EMB Region 4B. We have conducted a feasibility study for the sewerage and septage and management or treatment system for the protection of waters of Panglao Island, Bohol Province. And last but not the least, we are currently the consultant of Bangon Marawi Solid Waste Master Plan. So that's what we have been doing so far as consultancy is concerned. This is a picture of helping to protect Lake Buhi, the home of the smallest fish in the world, the Sinarapan. Ito si RD Director Abo. Kasama ko doon sa pagbisita sa Lake Buhi. Ito yung pagbibisita nila sa Manila Water with the 2 directors na nandiyan. Binisita namin yung Manila Water Centralized Treatment System at dineliver namin ang feasibility study sa kanila. Then, Bangon Marawi Solid Waste Master Plan. After the onslaught of the ISIS-led doon sa Marawi, maraming basura at we have to protect Lake Lanao. So under the EMB 10, we are doing training and consultation with them to make sure that we deliver the mandate or our terms of reference. Protection of Calapan River in Calapan City. So we were there. We collected samples and made an analysis and attended the board meeting of the Calapan River Waste Water Quality Management Board, an EMB 4B to be led by RD of EMB Region 4, my good friend, Mr. Michael. Okay, so again, protection of waters of Panglao, the pristine, my hometown in Panglao. We have to protect this. I was with the mayor last year. We conducted consultation to the public about how to protect the waters of Panglao. And we have delivered, despite the pandemic, we have delivered our feasibility studies to them. So what is this feasibility study? The feasibility study has the scope of technical and engineering study. We designed the septage, sewerage, and centralized wastewater treatment plant. We conduct financial analysis of the cost of this facility. We conduct as well environmental impact assessment, because when you start this facility, you have to apply for ECC or environmental compliance certificate, including protection of indigenous people and gender sensitivity. We conduct capacity building measures, how to manage, operate, and maintain septage and sewerage and wastewater treatment plant. And above all, for the LGUs, we help support the passage of city municipal ordinance to capacitate you and to sustain the operation of the septage, sewerage, and wastewater treatment. So that is the content of our feasibility study. Now, based on our feasibility studies of Panglao, you will notice that after that study, of the industry or most of the DNR are running after the private entity. But you will notice that only 37% of wastewater comes from the commercial establishment. 63% comes from residential establishment, meaning if you solve the commercial establishment, you are not focusing, you are focusing on the less. So who is responsible for the residential pollution? It is you, the LGU. That's why we have to come up with this National Sewerage and Septage Management Plan in order to protect the waterways, not from commercial establishments only, but from residential areas. So these are the significant pollutants under the new DNR standards. So I don't need to describe what are these, but these are the pollutants. O kami mga engineer, naintindihan natin ang mayroong influent yung pumasok, dapat yung lumabas ganito na kalinis. So that is the standard under the new law. By next year, wala nang palugit, wala nang waiver. It has to be implemented to the fullest by the DNR. So the LGUs should be prepared to understand this. So what do you mean by septage management? Madali lang, septage management is to manage your wastewater. But what are our practices? Business establishments are required septic tank before building permit is issued by you, by the local government. That's under the building code. Wala kayong ma-approve kung hindi sila magtayo ng septic tank, ang mga building. Old septic tanks, nung araw, allows percolation of water to the ground. Yung third chamber, you are allowing that to percolate to the ground. That makes it a problem now, especially in Boracay, because the third chamber is still polluted under the Clean Water Act. The new septic tank must be completely sealed. Yun ang bagong direction ngayon. So wala nang percolation. Dapat kayong mga LGU, you have to check that all septic tanks must be sealed completely. You know that septic tank is a primary wastewater treatment plant yung septic tank. Akala natin hindi. But it is capable of removing 50% of biochemical pollution known as biochemical oxygen demand, or BOD. Let's call it BOD. Domestic wastewater, sewage, has normally 300 parts per million or milligrams per liter of BOD. Hindi naman napakalaki. Just imagine you flush 5 gallons in your toilet and maliit lang naman yung dumi niyo. That's why ang pollutant natin, kahit ganun kaliit, is pollutant pa rin. You need to dislodge every 5 years according to the sanitation code, according to water district rules and the water code requirements. Septage wastewater, yung septage, yung nasa first chamber na pinapasipsip, has a very high 2,000 to 3,000 parts per million pollutive substance called by BOD. And these are suctioned and hauled by trucks, and nobody knows after suctioning where it goes without the sewage treatment facility. That is a septage management practice at present. There should be a septage treatment plant. Now, I give you an example to demonstrate to you how it works. In Panglao or in any tourist destination all over the Philippines, ang isang turista nagko-consume, it is consuming 180 liters per day of water. So if the hotels has 100 person times 180 liters per day, it is equivalent to 18,000 liters per day of pollution. Now, or 18 cubic meter per day. So if you look at this situation, the septic tank normally has dimensions of 2 by 3 by 1.5. Meron siyang 9 cubic meter. 18 cubic meter na yung pinoproduce ng isang hotel. So yung septic tank mo na 9 cubic meter, kalahating araw puno na yan. So what happened is that wastewater goes to the septic tank, has a pollutant of 300, it transferred to the second chamber, it goes to the third chamber, and it goes out what? Goes out moving 50% of pollutant. 50% means what? 300, 50%, 150 lang. The DNR standard is what? 30. So, your septic tank cannot pass. I hope you really understand this one slide, that septic tank can only treat but could not pass the Clean Water Act. So it fails. So building code fails, because of septic tank only. So Clean Water Act requires that wastewater discharge should be equal to beneficial use of or water body classification. What do you mean by this? Water beneficial use means ano ba ang gamit? What is the use of that water? So if the water that comes out of the septic tank is 150, you need a wastewater treatment plant to make it 30 to 50 ppm BOD or the pollutive substances. So you need wastewater treatment plant to be allowed to discharge Class C or Class B water to marine or inland water. So this is the situation. So septic tank, no matter what you do, because there marami sa inyo dyan, pinaparami ang septic tank. Septic tank are only primary treatment. Kahit 100 septic tank, it is only a primary treatment. It cannot remove further the pollutive substances. Okay. What is the sewerage and septage management combined together? Sewerage is reticulation or conveyance network. Ibig sabihin, there should be for existing municipality na highly urbanized, it's difficult to have a stand-alone conventional sewerage system. Stand-alone means sewerage lang talaga ang pumapasok. Combined storm and sewerage, because at present, we have already storm drainage. Yung mga ulan doon pumapasok. There is a design na i-combine yan for sewerage system. Discharge from septic tank can be connected to a sewerage. Sewerage flows to a centralized wastewater treatment plant to meet the parameters. Industrial wastewater must be pre-treated to meet the centralized wastewater treatment criteria to connect to a sewerage network. So what we're saying that sewerage is a reticulation, merong piping system from your houses para i-connect yung ating mga septic tanks. Okay, the septage can be hauled to the centralized wastewater treatment plant. Hauled by suction trucks. Kung hindi pa siya inaabot ng sewerage network, pwede siyang ipasip-sip, then the sewerage, the septage will be sent to the nearest manhole of the sewerage or to be sent to the centralized wastewater treatment plant. That is a proper sewerage system. Now, there are facts about on-site wastewater treatment versus centralized wastewater treatment plant. What do you mean by on-site? Yung sinasabi natin on-site, yung bawat isa magkaroon ng sariling treatment plant. Yung centralized, isa lang ang treatment plant, pero nakakonect through a sewerage system. So these are the facts. Sewerage and septage with centralized wastewater is more effective to protect waterways than on-site wastewater treatment plant. As during my interview with Mang Tane, malinaw na napakahirap i-monitor ng DENR EMB. Kahit dyan sa Region 11, kung lahat na lang ay hahabulin, McDonald's, Jollibee, sari-sari store, and so on, mauubos ang budget ni Ma'am Sophie niyan. Okay. It is cheaper to connect. Take note of this. Kung nag-connect ka lang, it is cheaper to connect than to build your own treatment plant. So, connecting is cheaper. However, sewerage network and centralized wastewater treatment is not a clear requirement of the Clean Water Act. Wala talaga sa Clean Water Act na nagsasabi you must have a centralized wastewater treatment plant. Ang sinasabi lang doon is that everyone should connect to a sewerage network. It was assuming like Manila, Makati, na dapat kung may sewerage, you have to connect. How about cities like in Davao, in Cebu, and in big cities, including our own, very own Tagbilaran City na walang sewerage network? The law did not specify that you must have a centralized wastewater treatment. That's one of the loopholes of the law. The sewerage network and centralized wastewater is not clear requirement. So, hindi siya gaanong nagkaroon ng requirement. But connection to sewerage is required in highly urbanized city like Manila. Now, there is another problem. There is no volumetric threshold in Clean Water Act in regulating discharges. In Australia, only those who consume 5,000 liters per day of water are being run after by the local EPA or the DNR dito. So diyan, lahat na lang kahit isang kapiranggot na water ay hahabulin. So that's not going to be a realistic thing. We have to focus on the risk to the waterways. on-site wastewater is required by DNR in every establishment. Yun ang paghahabol nila, mauubos ang kanilang resources dahil hindi lahat at na-expose din sila sa mga maling mga gawain if they are running after all the scalawags. Household domestic is not regulated directly by the DNR. So, don't worry kung may-ari kayo ng mga bahay, wala kayong septic tank, you are not going to be closed by Ma'am Sophie. But the household domestic sewage is the responsibility of the LGU. So kayong mga LGU, kung istriktuhin kayo ni Ma'am Sophie, dapat kayo ang ipasara kasi hindi niyo nagampanan ang Section 7 and 8 of the Clean Water Act. But what we are doing now is we are educating everyone na your pollution of the domestic wastewater is not different from pollution of commercial private establishment. It is happening. Iyon ang nangyayari din sa Boracay. Maraming mga nakakalusot doon sa waterways kaya nagkaroon ng pollution. So LGU must have a National Sewerage and Septage Management Program with the help of DPWH, with the guidelines of Department of Health. That's what is in the law. So I guess this particular section must be enhanced in order to help the LGU. But are LGUs going to wait kung wala pang nangyayari? You are powerful LGUs. You have Republic Act 7160 under the local government code. Now, if the Clean Water Act is saying there is no requirement for a centralized wastewater treatment plant or a connection to a sewerage network under Republic Act 7160, hindi sinasabi, it's not said that Republic Act 9275 is more powerful than Republic Act 7160. You are equally powerful by passing ordinance to have a mandatory connection to a sewerage network by passing Sangguniang Panlungsod Ordinance para magiging siyang applicable. And we are here to support you how you are going to do that. Okay, so that's the facts. Now, this is the problem. This is one of the issues. According to the wastewater treatment and sewerage infrastructure cost, napakalaking cost. This is, I think, the analysis in Panglao. For sewerage alone, it will take Panglao to spend 1.037 billion of pesos. Saan naman kukuha ang LGU niya? And 300 million for the centralized wastewater treatment plant. Even with that, paano naman kukuha ang LGU yan? Now, that's why we need to understand this one because the law specify that the DPWH will support you. Now, ang DPWH naman ay hindi susuporta kung wala kang feasibility study. Ano ba plano mo? What is your plan, LGU? But it is also the mandate of local of the DPWH to come up with a National Sewerage and Septage Management Program. So it's either way kasi kung hindi sila gagalaw, yung sarili mong LGU ang magsasuffer o pollution. Eh hindi naman taga DPWH ang nakatira, kayong taga LGU ay nakatira, the one living near in your locality. So you have to do this plan properly. According to our survey, despite the cost, the residential has 82% willingness to support wastewater treatment infrastructure and even the commercial establishment. But willingness to pay, they are also willing to pay. However, commercial establishment, they don't know if they are going to pay. Some of them say yes, but we need to have more education about centralized sewerage and septage management. Now, I'll give you an example of LGUs buying or marketplace buying their own treatment system or connecting to a centralized wastewater treatment plant. This is a case study. If you connect to a sewer, for example, 50-room resort, may 100 persons yung pinakita ko, 18 cubic meter yon. Ang daily fee is 1,254. Ang monthly fee is 37,000. Ang yearly fee aabot ng 457,000 sa isang resort in order to connect to a sewer. Now, if you are going to buy a wastewater treatment plant, siguro sa ganyang klaseng 3 million yon, i-operate mo pa yon 1.741 million per year. So you buy, then you operate them kasi running a system is different from buying. Parang bumili ka ng kotse, ayaw mong paggasolinahan. So I have said that the break-even point, kung bumili ka, dito ka na lang sa connection at meron kang break-even point na 10.36. So this is an actual analysis of buying your own STP versus connecting to a sewerage network. Now, how are you going to decide what technology you're going to do? You need to come up with multi-criteria analysis. But since you are not really an expert on this, that's why we come into the picture as consultant. We help you decide what needs to be done, what kind of technology needs to be implemented in order to come up with multi-criteria analysis. What are those? Do you have enough area to make the treatment system and the sewerage? Is the technology complying with the DNR standard? Is it distributing or consuming so much energy, chemical? Madali ba siya i-operate? Do you have many installation already to make sure? Is the technology officially listed? Is the process stability good? Then you have to come up with a multi-criteria analysis. Then you will be able to decide what needs to be done. Then we can help you come up with financial analysis. For example, there are 5 different technologies that we have done in our previous feasibility study. These are the capital costs. These are the operating costs. If you look at the capital costs, so you will say, this is the cheapest, we will buy this one. But if you look at the operating cost, this is very expensive, this is less expensive, then you need to decide what needs to be selected in your process. We can help you do that. If you look at this situation, if you look at the cheapest with highest operating cost, well, in the first 3 years, okay pa siya. But if you look at the more expensive one with the lowest operating cost, after 3 years, nakikita mo na mas okay yung lower operating cost. So you need to make a clear distinction and decision what you need to do with your infrastructure. Now, with that, I end my presentation. I think I still have like 20 minutes. I made sure that hindi ako lumalampas kasi mahigpit yung ating ano. I hope I was able to give you some points, and we will be happy to hear if there are some questions in the next 10 minutes kasi my presentation, before I give you to the next presenter who will be comparing different wastewater treatment technologies. So I give the floor to Ms. Rose Balod. That's my presentation. I hope you were able to get some points of our discussion. Okay, so let me stop the sharing, and I'll give the floor to Rose to continue. Hold on. Let me unmute you. So Rose, I'll give this back to Ismail for making the host, because he is the IT familiar of this. So Ismail, now you can manage this one after my presentation.
Thank you, Cecil, for that. And we apologize for that little gap of me being unmuted because of the technology. I have to wait for our IT person to allow me to unmute. I cannot just do it on my own. So that's the thing. So anyway, Cecil, we still have about 10 minutes for some questions because we have a space. So if you have questions, you can use the reactions. It's hard to see people on screen. You know, if you want clarification, and you know, we thank you for that very informative presentation, Cecil. And I know at some stage you had that Engineer Cecil incited in us or in you something that you want to do or take action. And you know, I always believe, like being a Filipino here in Australia, coming from the Philippines, I never really take or consider the environment very important or part of my daily living. That's why government, I can understand LGUs, that sometimes you think that it's not very positive that Filipinos are hopeless in terms of caring for the environment. But when I immerse myself with the Australian culture, they start with prep. Imagine little kids, how they should look after the environment, especially like Mom Sophie has said, water is really very important. And I truly believe, and in behalf of Aquagem, we believe that Filipinos can change their mindset about the environment, how we should really look after, because it like the cliche has said, we do not own the environment, we borrow it from the future generation. And something that you borrow, you look after, and you make sure that you return it the way, in the same state that you borrowed it. So really, really good presentation. So are there questions? So like what I said, it's hard to see the screen. You can use the reaction thumbs up if you have a question, so that I can acknowledge you. Any clarification or insights? So there's one here to everyone. So I will just read it out. Usually for a National Sewerage Septage Management Plan, is there a required, so Cecil, I think this is addressed to you. Is there a required period for the implementation of the said plan? Example, for a solid waste management plan, the plan shall be implemented within a period of 10 years minimum. So do we need to affirm that?
I need to, I'm not sure. I don't think there is that the same as 9003, but the law clearly specified that within 12 months from the enactment of the act, there should be a national sewerage septage management plan. But that's not from the LGU's point of view. I think that's from the national government point of view. Maybe I let Engineer Sophie Manuel explain further about this question. Maybe that would be more appropriate for her to explain kung meron bang period ang NSSMP.
So can we unmute Mom Sophie? Like what I said, there is just that little gap to allow participants to unmute. So, okay, thank you.
Okay, so thank you for that question. Well, as the law says, they are required to put up a sewerage or the septage management system depending on their area. But as of the moment, they're still having a difficulty, no? Tama yung sinabi ni Cecil na ang focus ngayon kasi sa EMB, naka-focus kami talaga sa establishments, hindi, and of which they have to construct a waste treatment facility. But now we are starting the campaign for the construction of a sewerage or the septage management plan. Kaya nga meron tayong water quality management area, and isa sa plano yan siya sa ating integrated water quality management framework is to put up a sewerage or septage management planta for every local government unit. So sa Davao City, meron ng MOA na nasa City Government na nire-review nila for the MOA with the local water district. Kasi very clear that the service provider should establish the needed sewerage or the septage management plan. Pero as to the implementation, talagang medyo malaking sakit ulo pa kasi hindi talaga, tama yung sinabi mo, hindi pa talaga nagagawa hindi pa nakikita ng local government units yung kahalagahan ng paglagay ng isang sewerage or isang septage treatment facility.
Yeah. Maraming salamat. Then I may add, because what I have said is we have to conduct a risk assessment. We cannot put a sewerage network in the countryside na
Yes.
napakalaki ang gasto. So the approach is just to put up a sewerage, septage plan and wastewater in the centralized, like may market, may abattoir, and yung mga sources, may hospital, at i-connect sila sa mga sentro ng mga bayan. So that would be a very good approach. And also, it should not be free. It should be, kasi we are spending money to put up this facility, it should be self-sustaining kahit pa it is given by national government. Then running them is maintaining them,
Yes,
replacing the
definitely.
parts and all. That is a requirement. So that is an approach na dapat magawa. Then another thing, you don't focus on wastewater, lalo na sa mga LGUs na kulang din sa tubig, na problema din. You integrate water and wastewater as one, at huwag ninyong sabihin na magbayad kayo sa wastewater. Walang magbabayad. Nobody is paying that because hindi nga makabayad sa tubig, mapapabayarin mo pa sa wastewater. So it should be an integrated kind of billing system like what we have done in Australia. Hindi malinaw dito kung ano water at wastewater, but we are paying because they are treating the water that they are supposed to be distributing to us. So I think that should be, we can do that in a small scale way. We can help you do that, how to come up with that situation. You just need to have a plan, the National Sewerage Septage Management Plan. And we have to push DPWH and DOH to help you. If not, then like Panglao Island, hindi na sila naghintay. Kung wala pa, then they are initiating themselves. Anyway, they have money because of the tourism, then they were able to come up with their own National Sewerage and Septage Management Plan to protect Panglao Island. So you can also do that, and we can help you.
All right.
Actually, my water quality management board na rin ang dito sa Davao City for the Talomo River na specifically, and meron na silang na-start up with dahil sa sila ang policy making body. So may start na, may proposal na ang water district ng Davao City, and nandoon na ngayon sa City Government for their review. And with the help of Aquagem, I know that you can be able to help us with this problem.
Ma'am, very quick. We have 1 minute. It's just a yes or no answer anyway. There is a question here that most of the LGUs have sewerage septage management plan, but does the DNR or EMB will help or guide them to prepare for this plan? So just a quick answer so we can move on to the next. Thank you, ma'am.
Sorry, Rose, I haven't.
So,
can you repeat your question, Rose?
Okay. The question was,
my portion ka.
Sorry, ma'am. The question was, most of the LGUs have no sewerage and septage management plan. Will the DENR or EMB will help them or guide them to prepare for this plan? The LGUs, are you getting some support?
Partial, yeah. We have a water quality management board to assist us, no? And we are part of that. Kami sa EMP, kasama ang LGU, and kasama yung part of the area. So, technical assistance, and kaya nga magkakaroon ng mga FS, yung ginawa, minention ni Cecil, na nagkaroon sila ng feasibility study. Siya yung nag-establish ng FS, feasibility study, for the sewerage ba yun, Cecil, no? Sa Region 5.
The thing is that EMB initiated this by putting up money to initiate a national feasibility study in different regions of the country, including, I'm not sure in Region 11, but in Region 5, to protect Lake Buhay. The money came from the Environmental Management Bureau, but it benefited
Central Office.
Central Office. It benefited local government of Buhi Municipality sa Lake Buhi. So na-benefited sila, then they have their own national sewerage and feasibility study now. The problem now is, are you going to, kasi libro lang yun eh. It's not really the one. But you have already the book or the feasibility study to go to the investor. Hey investor, we have this analysis. Can you put up this facility and we will make sure that ang investor naman will need that kind of feasibility study, because the banking system also need this one feasibility study, because they will not release money if there's no such plan. They cannot release money without the plan. Now, during the past few years,
Actually,
the DPWH was issuing 40% subsidy. 40% subsidy kung sino yung gustong mag-implement ng National Sewerage Management Plan. However, walang taker kasi 50% or 60% is still a lot of money. The reason for that is, bakit hindi natutuloy, because wala kayong plano, ang LGU walang maipakitang National Sewerage and Septage Management Plan showing the feasibility study. I mentioned engineering design, financial analysis, environmental impact assessment, capacity building measure, and local ordinance. Those things packaged together will come up with approval from the, na-increase nila ngayon ng 50%.
Actually,
I'm not sure kung may taker pa.
Yes, actually. Okay. Actually, ang Region 11, hindi pa kami naging recipient kasi ang last year yun, ang kasama Region 6, Region 5, ibang regions. Ang Region 11 is supposed to be a recipient this year. Pero because of the pandemic, hindi na natuloy yung yung activity na yon. Supposedly for this year, meron ang Region 11, nasa plano yan. Kasi ang pera galing central office. And hindi lang, it's, hindi kami, kaya wala kami hindi nagawan ang Region 11. Supposedly this year. Baka by next year meron, by 2021. Pero for 2020, hindi natuloy, hindi kami nagkaroon. Kaya ang Region 5, kaya nga ikaw ang nag-conduct ng FS kasi may pondo sila. Binigyan sila ng something like 5 million for the FS. 5 ba yun? Oo. Something like that. Oo. Kami sa 11, hindi pa kami naging recipient. Supposedly, kasi hindi naman lahat ng regions binigyan eh. Last year, hindi lahat ng regions nabigyan. So, supposedly, mabibigyan talaga kami this year. We were expecting for that. But because of the pandemic, hindi kami natuloy na nabigyan. And kaya nga, yun ang isang activity na left out namin. But hopefully, for 2021, we do hope na mabigyan kami na isang pondo for that. Magkaroon kami ng FS. Kasi once na may analysis na, complete na, then we can push through with the sewerage or the septage management treatment system.
Thank you. Yes, thank you so much, Ma'am, for all those, for addressing those questions. There are a few other questions which we'll try our best to answer at the end of our presentation. So for now, we'll move on to the next part, the next presentation, because one of the main focuses of current technologies is wastewater treatment. So there is always that need to discharge back to the environment our water before we lose it. So to present to us the comparison of different wastewater treatment technologies, please welcome the Aquagem Wastewater Business Development Manager, Engineer Naria Ilagan, who is an expert on wastewater treatment plant operations and management. Let's all give her a warm virtual clap. Welcome, Ma'am.
Thank you for that. Hello, can you hear me?
Hello, Ma'am Rose. Before can I say something?
Sure.
May reiterate lang ako yung emphasis sa Section 7 ng Clean Water Act. It clearly provides that the Department of Public Highways, DPWH, with the DNR, LGUs, DOH, and other national government agencies shall prepare the National Sewerage and Septage Management Plan. So ang role ng DPWH is to coordinate with all the National Sewerage and Septage Management Plan activities with all other national government agencies and provide advice and support to LGUs. So kaya nga ang Region 5 in-emphasize ni Engineer Cecil kanina na meron silang activity dahil nagkaroon sila pondo. Hopefully meron kaming magagawa for next year, no? Mabigyan kami ng pondo. So that is all. Thank you.
Thank you, Mom. And I'm sure we will be needing more of your, addressing the other questions. For those who raise some questions, we will just park them at the moment, but we will get back to them after the presentation. So Engineer Naria will have about 20 or a little bit time for her presentations, and we will have Q&A after that. So I give you back the floor, Engineer. Are you ready?
Yes, good morning, everyone. Can I just confirm that you can hear me and see my screen? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so good morning again. I'm Naria Elagan, and today I will be presenting a comparison of the various wastewater treatment technologies. So our discussion will be covering three major topics, namely the wastewater treatment overview, the different wastewater treatment configurations, and the feasibility study conducted by Aquagem involving these. Now let us start by first reviewing what wastewater treatment is all about. So in the Philippines, we have a number of environmental regulatory compliance requirements mandated by various laws. One of these, as was discussed by Sir Cecil, is RA 9275 or the Clean Water Act. It stipulates not only the importance of wastewater treatment, but also the standards that should be met to ensure the protection of the water bodies that receive the treated wastewater. Since, as we all know, water continuously moves within the earth and the atmosphere through the water cycle. So aside from being required by the law, I believe that it is our social and environmental responsibility to ensure that wastewater is properly treated. We all owe it to one another, as no man can survive without water. If we don't do our part, it will result to contamination of our water bodies, which could be toxic to aquatic life and human beings due to the degradation of its quality. Consequently, it could cause the spread of diseases, loss of biodiversity, and even climate change. So what happens when we treat wastewater? How do we do it, you might ask? Generally, there are 4 levels of treatment involved in a wastewater treatment plant. These are the preliminary treatment, the primary treatment, secondary treatment, and tertiary treatment. We will be discussing each in the following slides. So initially, wastewater, if domestic, these will come from toilets, kitchens, and sinks. Coming from sewer lines will flow into the facility by initially passing through a screening process. So solid wastes such as rags and debris are removed through screens of various sizes, such as coarse screens which cater to solids which are greater than 6 millimeter in size, and fine screens for solids which are less than 6 millimeters in size. Even the smaller particles like sand and gravel are extracted in the grit removal. So this is essential to ensure that proper treatment is done and also to protect the mechanical assets of the plant. So these are mainly the pumps, because that would be a problem if may ma-stuck po dun sa mga pumps natin. So afterwards, it will flow through an equalization tank. This could be an aerated tank. As you can see in the picture, there are bubbles because of the supplied oxygen for mixing. Okay, since the incoming wastewater may have different parameter levels, such as its pH, BOD, or the oxygen needed to naturally degrade pollutants, and COD, or the oxygen needed to chemically oxidize pollutants, among others, like what you have seen in Sir Cecil's presentation, mixing is needed to homogenize its quality to meet the facility's design specifications. So kailangan pong haluin ng maayos para pare-pareho po, pantay-pantay yung quality ng wastewater natin. So from the preliminary treatment, it will pass through a primary settling tank or sedimentation tank. So this process slows down the flow of the wastewater to allow the organic solids or the raw sludge to settle by gravity. This process produces two products, the sludge and the wastewater. Usually, the tank is designed like a funnel or mukha po siyang embudo so that the settled sludge can be easily extracted from the bottom part of the tank and transferred into a sludge holding tank, while the wastewater flows through the weirs into the aeration tank. So once the solids are removed, the wastewater will then flow through the secondary treatment. So this is the heart of the process, as this is where the organic pollutants are eliminated and the wastewater is treated. There are a great number of secondary treatment types, but for this presentation, we will be focusing on the biological aerobic treatment. So biological aerobic treatment entails the use of microorganisms which thrive in an oxygenated environment to remove the organic pollutants. As you can see in the photo, the bubbles in the tank are injected from blowers. So there are airs coming from blowers that are injected in the tank. So like us human beings, the microorganisms use oxygen to live and eat the organic pollutants to survive. Actually, majority po nung trabaho namin in operating a wastewater treatment facility is ensuring that the microorganisms are happy and satisfied para maganda yung treatment ng tubig. So from the aeration tank, the treated wastewater will then flow through a secondary clarifier. It has the same purpose as the primary clarifier, but it separates activated sludge, which contain the inorganics, organics, and microorganisms from the treated wastewater instead. So the activated sludge is allowed to settle again prior transfer to the sludge holding tank, while the treated wastewater flows to the next process. Since there are two products from the secondary treatment, let us first discuss what happens to the treated wastewater. So once clarified, it goes through a disinfection tank where it is dosed with chlorine. As you can see in the photo, there are white dividers inside the tank. These are called baffles. They allow the treated wastewater to have at least 30 minutes of contact with chlorine prior being discharged. This is necessary to have an effective disinfection against pathogens in the treated wastewater. On the other hand, the sludge coming from the primary and secondary clarifiers, which have accumulated in the sludge holding tank, are thickened. So that is the process of decreasing the water content prior to watering. So this can be achieved through the use of various equipment such as belt press, a screw press, or a drying bed, among others. The watering is needed to yield biosolids, which are then hauled out and used as organic fertilizer. So now that you have seen the overview, let us proceed to discussing about the most common and widely used wastewater treatment technologies. You will see that these technologies follow the same 4 treatment levels I have presented, but majority of their differences lie in the configuration of their biological aerobic tank. So we will be going through 4 different technologies, starting with the conventional activated sludge. So for the conventional activated sludge, or CAS, same as what we have discussed earlier, you can see that the raw wastewater goes through screening and primary clarification prior the biological aeration. Specifically, the microorganisms in the biological aeration tank are just floating about without any constraint. So sama-sama lang po sila dun sa loob ng tangke. And they're freely interacting with oxygen and the pollutants in the wastewater. So the treated wastewater from the aeration tank then flows to the secondary clarifier before it is disinfected with chlorine and discharged as effluent or treated wastewater into a receiving body of water. Meanwhile, the sludge from the primary and secondary clarifiers, which we call WAS, or waste activated sludge, are removed. You will also see a return line, or the RAS, coming from the secondary clarifier to the biological aeration tank, since there is a need to resupply the microorganisms to ensure that they are enough for the treatment. So these microorganisms po kasi, they have a lifespan. That's why it is necessary for us to replenish their population. So The wasps are then transferred into the sludge holding tank. Prior undergoing dewatering, the wasps are conditioned with polymer for a more effective solid separation. The separated and dewatered solids known as biosolids are then hauled out by a third-party contractor for use as fertilizer, as mentioned earlier. You will also see that the separated solid wastes from the screening processes are properly discarded following the requirements of RA 9003 or the Solid Waste Management Act. So on the other hand, you will see that for the sequential batch reactor or SBR, there is no secondary clarifier after the biological aeration tank, even if it follows all the other treatment levels. This is because the secondary clarification process is already incorporated in the biological aeration tank. You see, from its name, the SBR is designed to treat wastewater by batches through a series of biological aeration tanks, which operate on a fill and draw basis. Generally, the SBR is divided into 5 distinct periods, as you can see on the figure inside the red box, namely fill, react, settle, draw, and idle. So during the fill stage, the wastewater is allowed to enter the tank up to a certain level. Initial mixing can already be triggered during this stage. Afterwards, it will go through the react stage where mixing or aeration occurs. You will see those as steps 2 and 3 on the figure. So depending on the design, those two can actually be incorporated as one step. So after sufficient reaction time, the agitation will be stopped, meaning ititigil po yung mixing and aeration, and the solids will be allowed to settle. Same as what happens in a secondary clarifier tank. Then, for the 4th stage or draw stage, it involves the removal of the separated solids using a decanter, which could be a fixed or adjustable pipes, valves, pumps, or weirs within the tank. This occurs while the treated wastewater is being discharged for disinfection before it is released as final treated wastewater or effluent. Finally, the tank becomes idle as it awaits to start the cycle again for the next batch of raw wastewater. It is during the idle stage where wasting can be done to remove sludge. The waste-activated sludge undergoes thickening and dewatering prior disposal as biosolids, while those separated from screens are disposed as solid wastes. Now let us discuss the moving bed bioreactor or MBBR. This one is actually close to my heart since it is the longest technology I have ever operated. You will see that what it lacks compared to the conventional activated sludge configuration is the primary clarifier. Generally, there is no need for initial removal of raw sludge prior the biological treatment, since the biological aerobic tank contains plastic media that allows for more microorganisms to propagate. So if you will look at the red box on your screen, you will see the white round media with divisions inside. So that is where the microorganisms adhere to, like what you will see on the image behind it. So madami pong ganyan sa loob ng biological aeration tank, and then dumidikit yung mga microorganisms natin. Okay, so more microorganisms can thrive inside the tank due to the high surface area of the media. So the increased volume of microorganisms allow for operation at higher suspended biomass, while yielding increased solids removal, increased treatment capacity, and low sludge production. So same as with CAS, there is also a RAS line or the return activated sludge line from the secondary clarifier to repopulate the microorganism colony, as well as a WAS line which then flows into the sludge handling processes to produce the biosolids for hauling. As always, the solid wastes from the screens are also discarded properly. So finally, we have the membrane bioreactor or the MBR. As you will see, there is no settling tanks in the MBR process. Instead, there is a membrane after the biological aeration tank. Actually, membranes could either be immersed in the aeration tank or placed as a side stream, like the one shown in this diagram. So after po siya ng biological aeration tank. The membrane is a semi-permeable membrane, meaning it is selective in filtering particles. So it could separate minute particles ranging from times 10 to the minus 6 or even smaller. So just imagine how small those particles actually are. So the membrane filtration can either be microfiltration or ultrafiltration. So from the membrane, there is a RAS line that replenishes the microorganisms in the biological aeration tank. And you will also see that the WAS line comes directly from the aeration tank, which is something different compared to the other technologies we have previously discussed. The WAS also flows through the to the same sludge holding, thickening, and dewatering prior being hauled out as biosolids. And another distinct characteristic of the MBR is the need to periodically clean or revive the membrane, since some of the removed particles adhere to the membranes and lessen the effectivity of its treatment. That's why we have the backwash permeate and another chemical dosing for the membrane. So finally, the solids from the screens are discharged as solid wastes. Because of the pore size and selectivity of the membranes, the MBR is actually capable of yielding the highest treated wastewater quality compared to the other three that we have previously discussed. Okay, so since you now more or less understand the different wastewater treatment technologies, let me now show you their relevance into the feasibility study that Aquagem Environment has conducted. So last August 2020, Aquagem conducted a study on the feasibility of constructing a centralized domestic and commercial wastewater treatment plant for Panglao Island in Bohol. So considering that it is surrounded by water and that tourism is a major economic driver of the island, ensuring proper wastewater treatment and protection of its waters becomes all the more necessary and important. Of course, we don't want another Boracay incident. So with the improper untreated wastewater discharged directly into the ocean, possible spread of diseases, and possible closing of the island to happen. The plant is projected to have a maximum capacity of 5 MLD or million liters per day, and Aquagem did the design for its phase 1 volume of 1 MLD, considering the 4 technologies that we have discussed. So apart from those, another technology called the biocleaner was also considered, since we are always on the lookout for new emerging and innovative technologies currently available in the market. So what made us decide to even consider biocleaner among all the other emerging technologies nowadays? Well, it has a simple and straightforward process. Same as with the others, raw wastewater enters the plant through a screening process, but one difference from the other technologies that it has is that afterwards, it will flow through an anaerobic digester. So anaerobic means that there is no oxygen, either in molecular form or oxidized nitrogen species form present in the tank. This is essential since there are special microorganisms in the biocleaner technology that need this type of condition to thrive. So after sufficient digestion, it will then flow through the biological aeration tank where the biocleaner technology is situated. So the biocleaner is a plug-and-go technology. It utilizes saprobic bacteria that do not need intense oxygen dosing, thus eliminating the need for big blowers as it is capable of achieving more oxygen distribution while generating constant microbial growth. So I will let the next speaker discuss more about the specifics of this technology since we have a representative from BioCleaner present today. So same as with the others, after treatment with BioCleaner, the treated wastewater then flows through the chlorine contact tank prior being discharged as treated wastewater or the effluent. So another major difference, aside from the elimination of the big blowers, is that there is no WAS and RAS lines. So instead, we only have a return feed to the anaerobic digester to help propagate the microorganisms. But this removes the need for subsequent sludge handling and biosolids hauling. So wala pong kailangan na thickening and dewatering after this. So this has significant operational costs reduction impact on the process. Then, same as before, there is still a need to manage the solid wastes from the screens, of course. Okay. So as in with any other feasibility study, Aquagem utilized a multi-criteria matrix to analyze the various technologies and help us impartially determine which one is best to use for the Panglao wastewater treatment plant. So this is the same table that Sir Cecil showed earlier, but it just shows that the performance of each technology were were rated and evaluated on how well they can meet the standards set for the Panglao wastewater treatment plant design. So as you can see, both the conventional activated sludge and membrane bioreactor garnered the highest ratings based on the multi-criteria analysis, while the biocleaner came in last due to not meeting the standard of being a listed technology in the wastewater treatment technical journals and handbooks, and also scoring low on footprint and reference installations. However, aside from the multi-criteria analysis, another important factor considered was the investment and operational cost implications of each technology. So in terms of area, you will see that the smallest land requirement would be for the membrane bioreactor. However, it has the second highest capital expenditure needed next to the biocleaner technology, while the lowest would be for the conventional activated sludge at 37 million pesos. So looking into the cost to operate each technology, you will see that without a doubt, the smallest OPEX requirement would be for the biocleaner technology, and that is without considering recycling yet. So if you will factor in recycling based on the class of the effluent after treatment with each type of technology, where Class A can be used as public water supply, Class B is for primary contact recreation such as swimming and bathing, and Class C is for boating, fishing, and irrigation, you will see that the highest savings would be for the membrane bioreactor at 36 million pesos. However, if we will consider the net OPEX after savings, biocleaner still proves to deliver the lowest operational costs. So what does that mean? Although the MBR and CAS technologies have scored high on the MCA and have notable advantages in area and savings and CapEx requirements respectively, the results of the financial analysis showed that the biocleaner technology has the shortest ROI. Moreover, the Class A effluent quality that the MBR yields is too much for the Class B requirement of Panglao surrounding waters. The overtreatment just translates to additional costs. Moreover, despite the high area and capital expenditure requirements of the biocleaner technology, the savings from its annual operation cost compensates for the initial investment. So although it scored low on the MCA because of its absence in technical references, we cannot close our doors on utilizing emerging technologies, especially with the advent of technological advancements in our modern world today. So in conclusion, Aquagem Environment's feasibility study showed that the biocleaner technology is the most suitable technology for the Panglao wastewater treatment plant, since it is a modern, innovative, cost-efficient, environment-friendly, and sustainable treatment solution which would not only benefit its residents, but also the environment that we all share. So this is just a view of something that we can do for you. If you also have wastewater treatment requirements, we would love to do the same for you and help you in your endeavors. If you need more information or have queries that you would like us to answer, you can chat us on the box, or you may reach us through the following. So thank you so much for your time, and I'm hoping that I was able to impart my knowledge to you. May you all have a great day ahead of you. Okay, so I'm just gonna return the host to Sir Ismael.
Thank you, Engineer Naria. And it's good that you made it simple. Like myself, I'm not a chemical engineer, but the technical words with you explaining and things. So I think we're enlightened, and it's clear now how this wastewater treatment technology works. And in line with that, everyone, like coming from Melbourne, it's a 9-hour flight to the Philippines, but it's nothing on Zoom. So this
Yes.
time, yes. So like the proximity with you to face, you don't realize that it's actually a 9-hour trip from me to you. So this time, we shall have another resource speaker from the other side of the world. So, and it will take about 14 to 15 hours by plane. So Monterey, California, to talk about a wastewater treatment breakthrough. I was intrigued actually with the word breakthrough. So I asked Engineer Cecil, why is it a breakthrough? Because I know that there are a lot of other available wastewater treatments. So, and it's called BioCleaner. So it is my pleasure to introduce to you from Monterey, California. Actually, he will represent the president of BioCleaner Incorporated, Eros Cow. But he is the expert. He is the technical expert. So Eros Cow, the president of the company, delegated this presentation to no other than Tony Samudio. More virtual claps, please. Take it away, Tony.
First of all, I'd like to thank everyone. I'd like to thank Cecil, Rosanna for inviting BioCleaner, the BioCleaner family, to participate and present in today's seminar. I'm very glad to be a part of this. And our presentation for today is a future of wastewater treatment. Like you were mentioning, Rosanna, the breakthrough. We consider our product to be a breakthrough, one of the components for the future of wastewater treatment. Next slide. My background as an applications engineer, my role with the company is to implement, design this BioCleaner technology for retrofitting, designing, expansion, and upgrading wastewater facilities. My background is in civil engineering from California State Polytechnic University, Pomona, which is about 20 miles from Los Angeles. Our company, the office, is based in Monterey Park, California. It's about 5 minutes from the city of Los Angeles. We're an environmental company, but we're a manufacturer. So our company started in 2010, and we manufacture a pre-engineered, portable, and modular immobilized bioreactor system for wastewater treatment applications. Next slide. The problem with lack of adequate sanitation facilities. Inadequate sanitation leads to all types of problems, gastrointestinal illness, bronchitis, other bacterial infections. Also, can hinder an economic output of a country. There was the study written, I think it was in WEF magazine. I'm sure all of you are familiar with that a country's GDP reduces by 3 to 4% each year with inadequate sanitation facilities. So the more sanitation, the more environmentally proactive a nation becomes, that helps increase and help economic prosperity in terms of developing into a developed nation. Lack of concerns for the environment. Wastewater treatment is a key for preventing contamination for all waterways, from those wastewater drinking resources as open water resources. Next slide. Necessities. Today's world needs a modern, innovative solution for today's problems. So we need a sustainable, efficient, but cost-effective solution, and make it environmentally friendly at the same time. As well as carbon footprint matters in a lot of today's environmentally challenged world. And we believe that our solution, the solution is with our product, which next slide. The elegant solution. The late Steve Jobs once mentioned, when you start to try to solve a problem, the first solutions come up are very complex, and for most people, we just quit and stop there. But if you keep going and live with the problem as you peel more layers of an onion, you sometimes arrive at a very simple and elegant solution. Like the previous presenter mentioned, our product is a very simple and elegant solution for upgrading, changing the way we look at wastewater treatment. And we believe this is a game-changing technology. This is our primary bioreactor. It's a patented technology, Green Patent A, using microbial remediation. Next slide. This is our BioCleaner product line. So we manufacture different types of bioreactors. Each type of bioreactor is a pre-engineered unit with a capacity. Now, although it does have a capacity to treat a certain amount of waste stream coming from whichever wastewater industry we're dealing with, but there's no limitation. Meaning, since it's a modularized system, there's no limitation. All you do is keep incrementing the number of units you would require for any type of project we're working in, any wastewater facility we're dealing with. Next slide. So these bioreactor is we use interchangeable media. So these are primarily geobacteria. So we source the bacteria from soil and rock, and we discovered that some of the soil bacteria is actually aerobic from deep underground where there's no presence of air. So we discovered that some of these microbes are actually aerobic, and I'll explain later why that is. And we named two primary consortia. Can you go back? Sorry. We have two primary consortia of microbes. We call it Bio6 and Chem5. Bio6 is primarily a group of bacteria consortia. We do with treating primarily organic constituents. So these are dealing with BOD, TSS, FOG, and nutrients, and all other biological constituents. And we have Chem5, which is mostly in we deal with high strength COD. So these are in industrial application, and these consortia of microorganisms can break down phenols, hydrocarbons, polyphenol molecules that are in color. These type of industries, particularly in the textile industry, maybe pharmaceuticals, that have these type of chemical constituents, we can break down to integrate, and other compounds as well. Both these microbe consortia are facultative. As a previous speaker mentioned, the anaerobic sesh phase helps too, because we do a return feed, and all we're doing in dosing facultative bacteria into the anaerobic digester or tank. What happens is the microbes form a bioreactor effect, and pretty much the microorganisms can adapt and change their geometry to adapt themselves to a zero presence of oxygen, meaning they'll utilize the food source as their oxygen. How BioCleaner works. So basically, this is a floating boat on a slip. So this bioreactor can be lowered in any pond, tank, or natural waterway, such as a river, a creek, even a lake, if it's enough, given the depth and the size of the lake as well. So what happens is we generate a laminar flow. So basically, it's just a gentle mixer. It's not a turbulent mixer. So we don't need that much energy output, because what happens, as the microbes propagate, so pretty much this generates an accelerated growth of bacteria, a constant accelerated growth. So since there is a death phase, but what happens is the constant growth of propagation of bacteria overrides the death phase. So when microbes die, they'll form sludge. But what happens is the microbes cannibalize each other, as well as the other microorganisms they're competing with in the waste stream. So this is kind of like a fighting scenario where the microbes are out competing each other. And what happens is we generate so much density of bacteria, then our food source is primarily consumed by our microorganisms that we're generating from a cedar tube. It's basically a cedar reactor. And this allows the bacteria to settle. So what happens is, as the bacteria get pushed to the forward, so as it flows in a unilateral direction, the bacteria forms, the layer of bacteria with the water forms a hydraulic head, which pushes down and help settle the microbes and as well as the solids. So it helps with, it settles much more quickly than say a conventional activated sludge or any other wastewater technologies that are out there. And since we only use 2 HP, what happens, there's a air and water interface where the microbes actually absorb oxygen from the air, which I mentioned why we discovered that these microbes are aerobic in soil because these microbes can actually obtain oxygen from the air and dissolve it into the water. So you're incrementing the oxygen and propagating the oxygen into the water. So that helps reduce the amount of energy required. Now, this unit is actually has a function. So there is a design computation based on the function of the flow, HRT, and your waste stream. So those key components are required to compute how many reactors you require. So all those components are factors of designing or computing to retrofitting or designing a wastewater facility with the biocleaner technology. Here's a simple schematic of how their bioreactor system works. So we're basically generating what we call good bacteria. So these are pretty much natural occurring microorganisms that we propagate through a seeder. And through a seeder, I mean a primary bacteria that just generates the microbes and the bacteria that's immobilized in the pellet. So there's approximately 20 kilograms of pellets, depending on the size of the reactor, that are inside a stainless steel tube, which is a 306 perforated holes. And basically, once you inject a little bit of air and pretty much in the food source, the primary immobilized microbe begins to activate and generate bacteria. So you're propagating bacteria through a ceramic pellet, which allows it, since it's perforated, it's very porous. If you were to feel the pellets, it's like a stone pellet. It's made out of clay and ceramic. So basically, the bacteria propagates and begins to distribute all the microbes. Next slide. Here's a simple schematic. Here's a conventional activated sludge process. You have your primary treatment, preliminary treatment, primary treatment, your secondary treatment, the biological treatment, and your tertiary treatment. So if we were to design a biocleaner system compared to a conventional system, how would we configure? So basically, if we're comparing, we offset the clarifiers. So basically, you decommission your clarifiers, and what we do is we would add an anaerobic tank. Although if it's sewage, it's not required, but an anaerobic tank helps a lot in reducing the energy output, as well as help break down additional sludge and solids. So the anaerobic tank is basically our workhorse of our biological treatment. So this is the reactor, the seeder. So basically we're generating bacteria, and basically the aerobic tank, we call it, is basically a polishing tank. So the polishing tank is generating bacteria, and we take some of the inflow, about 5% of your volume or your flow, and we turn it we do a return feed to the anaerobic tank. We're basically introducing facultative bacteria, and what happens is the microbes form a bioreactor effect. So they propagate even quicker. I'm sorry. So the density of bacteria increases with any anaerobic stage due to higher amounts of food source available. Since in the polishing tank, they're basically starving or have very minimal food source, since you're taking the effluent water and dosing it back. So that's what we take advantage of, utilizing the bacteria to best suit how we design and how we configure the biological treatment. You require also the same primary treatment, bar screen or grit chamber, or a moving screen, depending on the size of the facility, as well as a disinfection zone. We have a sand filter. What a sand filter does is it's an upload sand filter. It acts like a biofilter. In a sense, since the water is pushing through the sand, the microbes also will form a biofilm into the sand grains. So it also helps for removing excess TSS, removing some nitrogen, and polishing. Next slide. Here's another scenario where same exact configuration, except we're decommissioning. We're decommissioning all these sludge processing, as well as the clarifiers, like in the previous slide. So the offset of sludge handling, it's a huge advantage and also a very unique concept. Since as the previous speakers mentioned, since the bioclear technology is not in any academic literature, any wastewater journals, so sludge handling is very important. How to utilize, how do we decommission sludge handling altogether? The science and biochemistry behind it, as well as demonstration through projects and applications, which we have. Next slide. Here's another scenario. Here's another schematic. This is for nutrient recovery in the Philippines. The phosphorus and ammonia standards are, I believe, less than 1 ppm. Ammonia is 0.5. So we also have additional equipment that we also manufacture for breaking down ammonia, oxidizing ammonia. Pretty much mobilizing chemosynthetic bacteria that can degrade ammonia, help meet the discharge standards, right, in the Philippines. As well as phosphorus, we also manufacture a physical chemical filter. We call it a phosphilter. It's basically iron media that reacts with phosphate. Next slide. Here's another equipment we manufacture. This is for retrofitting septic tanks. We call it a septic ductor. So when you were to lower this unit in a septic tank, you basically get rid of the septage. There is no odor. You can remove up to 90% of your nitrogen, 80% of your phosphorus. It all depends on how we configure it. So we actually do have a brochure for a septic tank retrofits. We call it a micro STP. So it depends on the equipment we would implement into the septic tank. Next slide. PPP. This is more of a public-private partnerships. What BioCleaner can also do, instead of implementing a technology, selling a piece of equipment, we also can invest in projects that provide communities with access to sustainable clean water, sustainable sanitation facilities to be upgraded through affordable environmental product and services using energy efficient technology. Next slide. So BioCleaner can arrange and participate in PPPs, P3s to drive successful implementation of wastewater treatment facilities. So BioCleaner can do a joint partnership, or BioCleaner can actually look for investors to participate in offering a service to, say, the city, a municipality, in operating and taking managerial responsibility of a wastewater facility and operate it for a given number of years, 10, 20 years, 30 years. So this will be a cost on the per cubic meter basis. So BioCleaner and a partner will take full responsibility and implement all the required infrastructure and equipment required to retrofit or expand or build a new wastewater facility. Next slide. So BioCleaner can bring together components for a successful partnership between private sector and the local government and addressing the complex demands for managing water resources while bringing down the cost of ownership. So it's affordable, it's sustainable, profitable, and there's savings. And the low mill net cost is actually the key component we like to exercise. Especially for the for industrial facilities, the multinationals, private sector brands. So they focus a lot on their mill net costs, their operations costs, because they spend a lot of money in trying to maintain a sustainable wastewater facility. So if we can lower their operation costs by a certain amount, then they'll be very interested in having to address the issue and offering a solution for them. And BioCleaner will follow the laws of the host country as well as the U.S. and how to implement this PPP. And also, we also will get support from the U.S. Commercial Service, as well as addressing the project, having support. Next slide. With greater emphasis being put on environmental compliances as a cornerstone of healthy living, BioClean will also focus on an initiative to address wastewater treatment by local government units, such as cities and municipalities. Next slide. Basically, a layout of how BioCleaner can service a town, a wastewater facility for a town or a city. And you are where we can discharge it to Title 22. Next slide. Here's a schematic of a biocleaner designed for a 5 MGD facility, about 17,000 cubic meters a day. It is pretty much a generic, simple, general outline, layout of a wastewater treatment facility. As you see here, there's no disinfection. What we do is we have a fish pond. So we try to make it as green as we can, meaning using fish as a disinfection unit. So usually the fish will consume all the pathogens and polish the water, as well as adding daphnia too for the fish to feed on. Next slide. Biocleaner projects. These are biocleaner projects all around the world. Next slide. This one was in Auburn, California. This was a retrofit of a 500,000 gallon koi pond. So the goal here was to restore the pond and revive the ecosystem, lower nutrients. They're dealing with high ammonia, high nitrogen, and phosphorus, which are killing the fish as well as the birds. And we implemented 2 full biocleaner units. Next slide. So here's a unit floating in the water. So basically over time, the water became more transparent, a lot cleaner. And then the birds began to come back, as well as more koi fish. Next slide. Here's the analysis. So as well, your ammonia, phosphates, nitrates, all are reduced by more than 95%. As well as BOD, some BOD reduction as well. Next slide. This is Peru. This is a cement factory. So this is the sewage plant of it's actually a nearby village near. So this is in the Andes in Peru. So this sewage plant is actually located 14,000 feet above sea level, about 3,500 meters. So this is a retrofit of a 100,000 gallon, 350 cubic meter sewage facility. And they only had 1 oxidation ditch for the treatment, biological treatment, as well as being supplemented by a sand filter and chlorination. Next slide. So we had some obstacles we faced, most with the high altitude. So instead of 2 horsepower blowers, we incremented 3 horsepower blowers due to the air density, as well as the low depth of the ditches, or 1.5 meters, which is not ideal for the biocleaner system, but we added more units to compensate, as well as not having an anaerobic treatment. So that's why another reason why we incremented the amount of biocleaner units. Next slide. So this is initial of the water is very murky, full of algae and odor, foul smell. So these are installation installed. We have 3 full biocleaner units. Next slide. Units in operation. So units were, I guess they changed the position of the units to kind of have a mixing. Next slide. So units were positioned to mix the water and propagate microbes around the tank in a circular. Next slide. Those in Spanish, but the quality of water. So basically, your BOD reduced by more than 90%. Your COD got reduced by more than 90%, as well as lowering the pathogens. Next slide. So the water quality improved. The water became a little bit more clear, more transparent. Next is a retrofit of a decorative pond in a park in Lima, Peru. Next slide. So this is a decorative pond. I think it's a 100,000 gallon decorative pond. So this is in the heart of Lima. So this is basically in a park. The goal here was just to restore the pond, eliminate odor, and improve the water quality. So basically, they get river water, the water source from the river, and every 4 months, the water just becomes green and the odor starts accumulating. Next slide. Do the geographic location of the project. Next slide. So these are installation of ours. So we use the smallest bioreactors. So we call it a sewer jockey, or B1. So basically this is about 30 centimeter bioreactor system. So it weighs about 2 kilograms. So we use these bioreactors alone with direct aeration, external aeration from disk diffusers. So since we couldn't lower a full the delivery system, then since due to the depth of the water, we just lowered direct aeration with the biotubes. Next slide. So we chose different locations of the pond to lower the tubes. Next slide. Next slide. So basically, over time, the quality of water improved to eliminate the odor as well as the water quality. Next slide. Next slide. Next slide. So the future of wastewater treatment. It's a 21st century, and sanitation deserves a 21st century solution. So with BioCleaner, although whether we incorporate the unit or we can manage the plant, we could treat the water down to BOD less than non-detect, COD less than 5, with little to no manpower, and having all the benefits of eliminating pathogens, estrogen, antibiotics, minimal manpower. We can even incorporate solar energy, using solar units to power the bioreactor instead of having electricity source, as well as making BioCleaner environmentally friendly, convenient, and portable. Our formula for success is no odor, no sludge handling, the convenience of the system, as well as minimal labor. Next slide. And I'd like to thank you for participating in this presentation. For more information, you can visit us at www.biocleaner.com. And I'd like to thank everyone for inviting me to present the BioCleaner family. Any questions? Q&As?
Yep, thank you, Tony, for that. You know, we understand now why there's a breakthrough, that unique design. And I like what you said, when bacteria cannibalize each other, and then you have this design that quickly, or more quickly than the others, propagate the good bacteria. Once again, thank you everyone for listening to all the 3 presentations. So we have a few minutes before we do the question and answer, because we want to be on time. We understand that we have some guests on Zoom who are busy officials with probably prior appointments, so we can understand. We will have a quick closing remarks, but those who can stay, please stay, and those who need to go for prior appointments, we excuse you. So I give you back to Engineer Cecil Corloncito for a short closing remarks, and to tell us what's next after this. So Tony, please stay also for the Q&A afterwards. So I give you first, Cecil Corloncito, for the wrap up and what's next after this.
All right. Maraming salamat at At last, we have finished our discussion. And where do we go from here? You will notice that the remaining two slides or the remaining two presentations are quite too technical for LGUs. But what we're trying to present is something like we are offering a solution that's real and the technology is acceptable. I am quite aware that in the Philippines, there are so many wastewater treatment companies that are offering you left and right, LGUs, that ito yung kailangan, ito yung kailangan. So we have presented to you based on science and based on technology. And the last presentation was really a breakthrough because even myself, during our feasibility study with Panglao, I took that, no, that's too good to be true. That's not true. But because of COVID, when I was locked down in Melbourne, I was able to connect to the inventor of the biocleaner technology. Ganito lang yon. We are trying to promote that one. I challenged Tony and the company biocleaner, but it turned out that they have already installation for the last 10 years. So we are now the representative of biocleaner here in Australia. Because our clients are in the Philippines, mostly in the Philippines, we shared that technology because for two main reasons. Unang rason, we have so many clients already with our existing wastewater treatment plant. Pinapatay nila kasi kung wala ang DNR. So at the end of the day, they are already spending a lot of money, pero hindi nila pinapatakbo yung treatment plant kasi mataas ang kuryente. Itong biocleaner technology is something walang kuryente. 90% of the kuryente is gone. So meaning to say that kahit pabayaan mo siya bumili ka ng treatment plant na merong bacteria, natural bacteria that is propagating and propagating without the use of big electricity and blowers, then it will really make your waterways clean without any intervention of mataas ang kuryente. Now, pangalawa, as mentioned, as presented by Engineer Naria, there is always a sludge management. Meron talagang sludge kasi yung ating dumi ay merong sludge. But biocleaner technology has bacteria that will eat up, kakainin niya lahat ng dead matters. Kahit namatay na ang sarili niyang bacteria, kakainin pa rin ang bacteria, devouring itself, meaning wala ng sludge na mapoproduce. So those two things alone would really be very beneficial sa mga LGU kung magtayo sila ng wastewater treatment facility. So we are trying to promote a technology that is best practice na hindi na kailangan ng malaking operating cost. So we think that is the future of wastewater treatment. But we also, with the biocleaner, halimbawa, hindi kayo gaano maniwala, they are offering even a small pilot unit or yung parang jar test na kung hindi gumagana, hindi yan babayaran. So meaning to say, we are now in the threshold that managing wastewater is costly, but if there is a technology na talagang napakamura at walang malaking operating cost, so that is the biocleaner technology. So with that, I would like to thank you. And where do we go from here? Anong gagawin ng isang LGU tungkol sa pag-comply ng Clean Water Act? Now, as the law states that you need to come up with National Sewerage Septage Management Plan, all that we need to do, because we have your contact information and number, we can help you come up with terms of reference on how to procure, kasi lahat kayo taga-gobyerno, how to procure a consulting services for National Sewerage and Septage Management Plan. Most of the difficulty of LGU is how you put up in PhilGIPs. Kasi you have to put up in PhilGIPs in accordance with RA 9184, yung Procurement Act. So we will help you prepare a terms of reference in order for you to put up the terms of reference in PhilGIPs. That's first. That's given for free to you, and that's not going to be a massive ibigay namin sa inyo. Sino lang yung interested will have to approach us, and we will help you come up with free terms of reference. That's for the consultancy. Now, why do you need this feasibility study? You need resources, you need money, you need investor in order to put up the facility on top of your own budget. If you have your own budget for a sewage treatment plant, you can buy them immediately. But what happened after buying a sewage treatment plant? It should be sustainable na pag inoperate ninyo yan, babawiin ninyo yan at i-integrate ninyo sa water system. So we will be helping you come up with the terms of reference for posting. Kung kami ang makukuha na consultant, kasi hindi naman pwedeng ibigay ninyo sa amin yung consultancy because it will undergo a bidding process. Alam naman ninyo yung 9184 na kung sino yung the minimum compliance bidder, siya yung mananalo. We are just helping you come up with the terms of reference. Now, if you have already that plan, then we, Aquagem, also can participate in a bidding for the construction, design and construction of a sewage treatment facility. So those are the things that we can do for you. So meanwhile, I'm not sure if we take some more questions. We are taking notes of some of your questions, and we can extend this for a few minutes. If you have some, kailangang magtanong, I'll give the floor back to Rose if you have some questions. And I think before that, we have to recognize the speakers, Sister Rose, and we will give them some certificate of appreciation before we finish. Now, maybe we open the floor for more questions. For those who are already trying to leave because of other commitment, that's fine. But if there are some questions that we need to answer, then we should be able to answer them through chat or through the video. So, what do you think? RD Sophie still there? Because we are going to provide the awarding ceremony. So let me check if who's going. So
yes, thank you, Cecil.
Yes.
So we have a certificate of appreciation, and Engineer Cecil will read the content. And we would like Engineer Joseph as well to pass on our sincerest gratitude in behalf of Aquagem Environment, to please pass on our gratitude to Mayor Sara Duterte. And with that,
I think Rose Balod is already stuck, and maybe we can take some of the questions. So let's try to come up with some of the remaining questions if it's still feasible. It says from LGU to Bigon, hi ma'am, feasibility study is highly required to come up with a sewerage management plan. We need assistance of the concerned national government agencies for the plan so that our LGU legislative branch will enact ordinances supporting approving the management plan and appropriate funds thereof, because as I see it, it requires huge amount of financial aspect of the project. So this is coming from LGU to Vigan. My answer to that is we need to approach the DPWH in order to get some help. But I would like to tell you that it's easier said than done. In the province of Bohol, the provincial government were giving 1 million for each municipality for this purpose. So why don't you use that 1 million to procure a feasibility study? Because when you have a feasibility study already, then you can go to a potential investor, you can go to the bank, you can go to the DPWH, hey, I have this money, I have the feasibility study, and we are ready to come up with the National Sewerage Management Plan. So waiting for the DPWH is just almost impossible for most of the small LGU. So, and the one that is affected by pollution is not the DPWH. It's your area that is affected by wastewater pollution. So if you are going to wait, hindi rin pwedeng pagbintangan ang DPWH that they are not complying with their mandate kasi ano. But once you have that study, you can always approach the DPWH, use your connections in politics, and hey, there is this. We have the feasibility study. We're ready to go. We're ready to come up. I give you the example. Panglao municipality has come up with their own resources, but they cannot implement. They cannot implement the system without any investor. So there is already an investor as a result of the feasibility study. So you can also do that. Aquagem can help you come up with terms of reference, how to procure the feasibility study. There is from LGU in Pasugong, we may know the estimated cost for the consultancy in the preparation of feasibility study. It really depends on how big the LGU is. It could range from as low as 500,000 maybe to 3 million pesos, depending on the size of your area. Okay, so that's the answer to the question. Is 1 hectare of land enough for the plant? It also depends from Tupelo Gaco. It depends on what kind of LGU. 1 hectare is enough for Panglao Island with 50,000 population. But if your LGU is a small one, then a 30 to 40 cubic meter per day is that 1 hectare is so huge. So we installed in one of the municipalities in Bohol in Gindolman. It was only like 10 by 4 wastewater treatment facility. What else? Julie Humawan, why not the provincial government for the DPWH or the DPWH individual district prepare for the facilities? Well, that's their mandate, but we cannot always wait for them. What else? So I give the floor to I give the what you call the hosting to Ismail for the presentation of the certificate. If you don't have questions now, there is one question. Do we want to avail of your presentation materials? We are going to post the presentation material in our website. The way you registered with us is we have already the database. If you want to avail of that, then it is available. Then we will always talk individually to those LGUs who will be interested to have some help in preparing for the terms of reference for the consultancy. So the presentation will be available in our website, but we can talk to you one-on-one on your future needs. My very own mentor is saying, thank you, Cecil and Aquagem. Very informative. We just hope the LGUs will be serious about it. So it is a challenge from my mentor. You LGUs should be able to be serious about it. From Martel, can the DNR or DPWH issue guidelines and or template on how to make the plan? It's the DOH is going to have the guidelines on the septage, but the feasibility study will be able to come up with how to make the plan. It's not the same as 9003 that there is a 10-year solid waste master plan. This solid waste, those septage water quality depends on the water quality management area of your locality. So there's no such thing as guideline. It's only that the DPWH is going to come up with National Sewerage Septage Management Plan. It's either you go to them, and if there's nothing that has to be done, then the LGU is going to do something in order to come up with a solution to your problems. Okay, so Mr. Ismail, can we give the certificate to the speakers now? Are you in? Ismail? Can you? So I'll give the. Now it's with you. The hosting is with you. Then hold on. I'll give. I think Rose Ballot is already back, and I'll give the floor to her because she's the MC. Our ballot.
All
So the
right,
floor is
sorry, I
with you.
apologize. Yes, I apologize. I was cut off. But anyway, so we're back. I presume that the questions were answered. Actually, only the three questions were technical support, the guidance in the plan. And another one asked about, is there any grant, in case they would have this plan. Now, we apologize that we don't have enough time for these questions, but we can still answer them when you email all your questions, and then Engineer Cecil Carlancino will get back to you promptly. So before we end, Cecil, I'd like to request everyone to please have a quick survey. You know the reaction icon at the bottom. If you learn something through this webinar, it will help Aquagem improve our, the next time we have it. So please have a reaction. If you learn from us, just give the thumb up icon. Or if you want to add comments, we will really appreciate. So it will take you only a minute or so. So thank you everyone for coming. And like what I said, feel free to email us. You have Ismael's email, and avail of the free consultation that Aquagem is offering. It is already a step towards the possibility of having this technology. Your presence, 126 participants, is an indication that you already have that seed of interest. So all we need to do is just work together. In fact, I witnessed the teamwork when someone had a question in the chat and another person knew the answer. They were trying to coordinate, and that is really a good social interaction because we are all working to make a difference in our country. So good luck everyone, and may God bless us all in our desire to help our country. So any few more words,
Yeah,
Cecilia?
before I end, Rose, we would like to provide a certificate of appreciation here online to Engineer Sophie Manuel. This certificate is presented to Engineer Sophie Manuel as guest speaker during the pre-webinar on the National Sewerage Septage Management Plan held on November 18, 2020. So thank you very much, RD Sophie Manuel, for having us. And thank you very much for your continued support. Next certificate. We would like to issue a certificate of appreciation to Engineer Naria Ilagan as guest speaker during the pre-webinar on National Sewerage Septage Management Plan. Thank you very much, Engineer Che. Next. We would like really to highly appreciate through Attorney Felisarta, this certificate of appreciation is presented to Attorney Sara Duterte Carpio as guest speaker during the pre-webinar on the National Sewerage Septage Management Plan held on November 18, 2020. I would say we look forward to working with you, Engineer Felisarta, and to Engineer Sara. Attorney Sara, Inday Sara Duterte. Apologize for that. Certificate of appreciation is issued to Eros Cao, presented by Antonio Samudio as guest speaker during the pre-webinar, National Sewerage Septage Management Plan. Thank you very much, and we look forward to your continued support from USA. Are there more? And with that, I would like to thank you, and I will post for the final time the contact numbers and information of Aquagem, so that in time you need to call us, you should be able to call anytime, but you have already our information. So with that, thank you very much. And of course to Rosana Balod, who is our very energetic MC. Without her, our presentation or our webinar would not be have been so much of a success.
Yeah,
So
thank you. And also,
daghang salamat ug maayong adlaw og kaninyong tanan. So this ends our webinar, and we appreciate that, and we look forward to working with you in the near future. Thank you and have a great day.
thank you once again, everyone. And like what I said, your presence, your attendance is already a seed. We hope to nurture that seed and let it grow, you know, to help our country. So hope to see you all face to face after the COVID. Thank you, everyone. And we hope to have a second sequence for this webinar. Thank you, Mom Sophie, if you're still around. Thank you. Yes, and thank you for the rest of the participants. So we still have 101. Thank you to all of you. Okay, so our host will just will have the control to have this end the meeting unless someone would like to make up a humble question. So thank you to all the positive comments. Very inspiring, very encouraging. And just for final one, you know, Aquagem was conceived as a company because we are all Australian citizens. We are happy. We are comfortable in this country. But we want to bring to the Philippines the best practice. Everything that we can take away and give them to you, then we will be happy to be of help. So we have our website. We have the email addresses. Feel free to get in touch and keep in touch, everyone. Thank you. So I leave now. Cecil, thank you. Have a enjoy the rest of the day, everyone. Bye.
Bye. Daghan kayong salamat.